like to call to order this evening's planning board meeting for tonight, Thursday, March 23rd. And if I could ask everybody to rise and face the flag, please.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Adequate notice of this meeting of the Old Bridge Township Planning Board of Adjustment has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act at least 48 hours prior to the commencement of the meeting by predominantly posting in the municipal complex an announcement given the time, date, location, and agenda of this meeting, mailing such announcement to the Home News Tribune, and filing a copy of such announcement with the municipal clerk. Ms. Cannon?
Here.
Mr. Lenning?
Here.
Mr. Mamakis?
Here.
Mr. De Palma?
Here.
Mr. Lauer?
Here.
Mr. Renna?
Here.
Mr. Petty?
Here.
Ms. Masella? She's absent. And Chair Marucci.
Here. Okay, and I'd like to thank everybody in the crowd for showing up tonight. And just to let you know, we're going to do some housekeeping first, some internal housekeeping here with some resolutions and other things we have to attend to. And then we have an application before the presentation that you guys are here to see. So with that, we have the first resolutions. And Vina, I talked to Joe, and we're going to do them all individually. Okay. Okay, the first resolution is of the board professionals for 2023, and the board attorney, DeFrancesco, Bateman, Kunzman, Davis, Lear, and Flaum. And could I have a
I'll move it.
move by Mr. Mamakis and a second?
Second.
By Ms. Cannon.
Ms. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. Mamakis?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Renna?
Yes.
Mr. Petty?
Yes.
Chair Marucci?
Yes. Move on to the planning consultants, and we have 3, Environmental Resolutions, Inc., CME Associates, and Topology. I have a motion
Move it.
by Mr. De Palma.
Second.
By
Ms. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. Mamakis?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Renna?
Yes.
Mr. Petty?
Yes.
Chair Marucci?
Yes. And our engineering consultants, again, we have 3 environmental resolutions. Okay, the second is the engineering consultants, Environmental Resolutions, Inc., CME Associates, and Harbor Consultants. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it. I'll
By
second.
Mr. Lauer. Second.
I'll second.
By Mr. Petty.
Ms. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. Mamakis?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Renna?
Yes.
Mr. Petty?
Yes.
Chair Marucci?
Yes. And traffic consultants, we have 2, Environmental Resolutions, Inc., and CME Associates. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Cannon.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lauer.
Ms. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. Mamakis?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Renna?
Yes.
Mr. Petty?
Yes.
Chair Marucci?
Yes. Our forestry consultant, which is Chestnut AFS. And do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
By Mr. Lenning, second.
Second.
By Mr. Mamakis.
Ms. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. Mamakis?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Renna?
Yes.
Mr. Petty?
Yes.
Chair Marucci?
Yes. Okay, then we move on to resolutions of applications. And the first is 43-2021P, and it's Woodhaven Village, Inc., Major Preliminary and Final Site Plan. And do I have a motion for that?
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Okay, by Mr. Lauer and second by Ms. Cannon.
Ms. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. Mamakis?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Renna?
Yes.
Mr. Petty?
Yes.
Chair Marucci?
Yes. And the second resolution of application is application 48-2022P, Morris Habitat for Humanity, major preliminary and final subdivision, and major preliminary and final site plan.
I'll move it.
By Mr. Mamakis, and a second?
A second.
By Ms. Cannon.
Ms. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. Makis?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Renna?
Yes.
Mr. Petty?
Yes.
And Chair Marucci.
Yes. Okay, and that takes care of our internal housekeeping. We're going to move on to a completeness waiver, which is application 13-2023P, Seaman Brothers, and it's the Marketplace, major preliminary and final site plan with C variances. Good evening. Yes, they couldn't hear me, so they're not going to hear you either.
Yes, yeah, right. Mr. Chairman, good evening. David Himmelman for the applicant Seaman Brothers. As you know, Mr. Chairman, this is a request for a variety of waivers. The applicant has filed for major preliminary and final site plan approval. Vina Sawant, of course, your planner, provided you with a memorandum which describes the nature of the waiver requests, as well as the fact that this, I'm sure you're all familiar with the Marketplace Shopping Center, which is built out. We're not proposing any improvements relative to site plan. This is being triggered primarily because of a change in tenancy, which triggered a increase in intensity of the parking requirements. So the applicant will be, assuming these waivers are granted, the applicant would be coming in for that preliminary and final major site plan with the request for a parking variance. And so there's no change in use of the site, as Vina points out in her memorandum. And so based on that, I would request that the board look favorably upon these waiver requests.
Does that complete your
Yes.
testimony?
I mean,
That's
I have Eric Myers here, who's from Seaman Brothers, but I don't know that we need to hear from him unless there's any questions you may have.
Okay, board professionals, Vina?
I don't have any questions. It's a vacant store which had a retail store primarily, and now the use is changing to a restaurant use, which typically has more parking requirement. The applicant is not proposing any changes to the site, and that's why I think the waivers are warranted.
Okay, so you're comfortable with the
Yes, I am.
variances? Okay. Nicole, anything? Okay. Any questions from the board members? No questions? Okay, I just have one. What type of restaurant is it going to be?
Italian restaurant.
Italian restaurant, okay. How many seats?
40.
40.
Seats. Okay.
And that'll all be articulated in our parking study and testimony, obviously.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, no, that was, I'm a little put off because it was so quick. I don't know what to do with
Well,
myself.
I assume most of these people are not here on this waiver request.
Anybody in the crowd, can we open it up to public comments?
I mean, I know a
Public
change in
questions?
tenancy is controversial, but you gotta have some humor, Mr. Chairman.
You have to. So with that, piggybacking on that, do we have any questions from the public for this applicant? Where is the Italian restaurant going? Which space?
Yeah,
It's the end,
it would be on the
end
end,
cap piece.
Right,
where
which-
the former dress barn used to be.
right.
Former dress barn on 34?
Next to the thrift store.
Right, next to the thrift store.
Correct.
Next to Bridgeway Thrift.
Correct.
Okay, great.
I'll move it. Oh, you gotta close it first.
Okay, okay.
It's okay.
All right, I'm taking it like an application. Okay. Yeah,
He's being kind.
all right, so we're going to close the non-existent public
Right.
portion. All right, very good. So,
I'll move it.
move it.
It's a good addition to the township.
second by
Economic development.
Mr. Renna.
Ms. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. Makis?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Renna?
Yes.
Mr. Petty?
Yes.
And Chair Marucci.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I just have one procedural question. So, Dina, I presume your office will now render the application administratively complete and set it
That-
for a hearing?
That's correct.
Okay.
We will, so probably tomorrow, as long as we have all the checklist items, we will issue a letter with a date for the hearing.
Fine.
And we'll request for additional copies, because right now I believe you had submitted 2. So we'll ask for additional copies, and then you're set.
Okay, great. Okay, perfect.
No problem.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, gentlemen. Take care.
Thank you. See you
Good
soon.
luck. Okay, and we had 2 applications on for this evening, and the first was adjourned. So the second application is 35-2021P, G&A Investments LLC for a minor subdivision with C variances.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Peter Klauser. I'm an attorney with the firm Pape. I'm here this evening on behalf of G&A Investments. This is a piece of property that's located in the Lawrence Harbor section of Old Bridge on Greenwood Avenue. It's an oversized lot. It's a 10,000 square foot lot in your, these are really focused microphones. It's a 10,000 square foot lot in your R5 zone. So it basically double the size. There's an existing home on it, which as you look down on the map is to the left side of the lot, so it works that if we subdivide it, you can create one additional residential lot. So you have a person here who's looking to invest in the Lawrence Harbor community. That's evidenced by the fact that the existing home was in poor condition. It's been renovated with permits by the township as acknowledged in your professional report. And then we're seeking to create one additional lot to construct a new home in the neighborhood. As a result of the placement of the existing home, there's a couple of variances that are required for that, a front yard setback, which is not being modified by this. And in drafting the subdivision lines to create 2 conforming lots where the existing house is located creates a small side yard variance. And then the new house, just the way the architecture is laid out and the location of the lot and the size of the lot, there's a de minimis side yard setback for that. But our engineer will describe those dimensions for you. We meet the parking requirements, the off-street parking, but there's a waiver associated with that. But I think as pointed out in your professional report, the waiver is probably a good idea because it gets the parking off the street in that area. So the presentation this evening is through 2 witnesses, Donna Bullock from Morgan Engineering, she's our engineer, and then Allison Coffin, who I think the board's familiar with, is our professional planner. She can talk about the variance and the waiver relief that we're requesting. So if I could, I'd like to start by having Ms. Bullock join me and then have her sworn and place her credentials on the record. Do we bring the exhibits up here? And do we have another microphone? Thank you.
I'll swear you in while you're here. Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Can you please just state your name and spell your name for the record?
Donna Bullock.
Can you turn the microphone on to
Push that
see the
button.
green ring? You got to hold, there you go.
There we go. Donna Bullock, Bullock.
Thank you.
Sore throat.
Donna, if you could just share with the board your licensed professional engineer and what's your business affiliation and educational background.
Yes, I'm a graduate of New Jersey Institute of Technology. I have been a licensed New Jersey PE for 23 years. I ran my own company at one time, back in the good old days. I have provided testimony in front of many boards in mostly Monmouth and Ocean County for everything from site plan subdivision, C variance, pool plan.
I would ask that.
Accepted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
And I work at Morgan Engineering.
Donna, if you could, just identify the property. I see that we have the boards up on the screens here, and take us through the existing conditions and what the applicant is proposing.
Certainly.
If I may just interject, I'm sorry. Is this a new exhibit or is this the?
Those are the plans that were submitted.
Okay, so this
Yeah,
is
sorry.
exactly what was submitted to the board, so we don't need a marker.
I don't think we have to mark it, no, Joe.
Thank you.
As you can see on the 1,000-foot radius key map to the top right,
The property is in Lawrence Harbor, a section of Old Bridge, in the R5 medium high-density residential zone. It is currently Block 23, Lot 776, and contains 10,000 square feet. All the property within 200 feet of the subject property, as you can see on the zoning map, are all residential lots also in the R5 zone. The property is an interior lot. It's located on the northerly side of Greenwood Avenue. Currently, what exists on site is a one-story, three-bedroom, newly renovated dwelling, which is to remain, of course. Renovations consist of, when they renovated the house, they removed the a laundry room that was on the, located on the west easterly side of the home, a deck, and a ramp. The current drainage pattern.
No, hit it again. There you go.
The current drainage pattern runs from north to south.
Nobody wants to hear the lawyer talk anyway.
The current drainage pattern in the site flows from the north to the south, from the rear of the property towards Greenwood Avenue. The lot's drainage pattern, nor its property's current slope, will change after construction. There are a proposed drainage swell between the buildings to reinforce the runoff directed toward the street once the house is constructed. So what we're proposing is to create a two-lot minor subdivision of two 50 by 100-foot lots. The new lot, 776.11, is located on the west side of the property. What we're proposing to do, the house has been renovated, but we're now asking to construct a 9-foot wide paved driveway for 2 parking spaces, uncovered wooden porch, steps, and a concrete walk. On the easterly property, the new lot 776.12 is the construction of a 2-story, 4-bedroom residential dwelling with 1-car garage, a covered porch, steps, concrete walk, and an 18-foot wide paved driveway with 2 parking spaces, leaving 3 total spaces for that property. The proposed lot layout, as it's shown, the proposed lot configurations as part of the subdivision is in total conformance with the zoning ordinances. The property has been efficiently utilized with lot layouts and is consistent with the properties in Lawrence Harbor. A little background on the development of the site as the engineers and architect, mostly the architect and the client, were laying out the structures. The original layout had the building on proposed lot 776.12, that's the building to be constructed, at a side yard setback less than 9 feet. So with that, the architect had moved the house over so that it would eliminate that one side yard variance. This also allows for the widening of the proposed driveway on this new lot to contain that second additional parking space I mentioned. And also, the driveway for the existing house lot was next to the common property line between the 2 lots. That driveway has been shifted to the alternate opposite property corner. So that leaves us with the map that we have in front of us as our design and the waivers, variances that we request. The one variance is an existing condition variance. The existing dwelling is 14.4 feet off the front yard, and in the proposed condition, it will remain 14.4 feet. There are 2 side yard variance setbacks required. If we look at the existing lot, the existing dwellings lot, 776.11, we are left by just pure math with 7.8-foot side yard setback. That's with the existing side yard setback remaining on the westerly side, the width of the dwelling, and keeping the 50-foot minimum lot width. That number 7.8 is fixed, and there's nothing we can do with that, and keep the lots conforming. The second side yard setback is for the proposed construction on lot 776.12, which is located on the left side of the house. And we are requesting a variance from 9 feet for 8.8 feet. Those are the three variances that we're requesting. And in addition to that, we have a request for variances for the minimum side yard setbacks for the driveways. Back to the existing residential dwelling, the paved driveway is proposed to be 9 foot wide. That's leaving a 3-foot separation from the edge of the pavement to the existing property line. Again, those are constraints that aren't, we can't modify due to the existing location of the lot lines and the existing house. On the lot 776.12, the side yard setback for the driveway is proposed at 4 feet. And what that did was allow us to get 2 spaces in front of the driveway, so it's 18 feet wide, so that they can have the 3 spaces, 1 in the garage and 2 in the driveway, and then leave 4-foot clearance from the edge of the driveway to the adjacent property line. With all that said, based on the letter from the engineers and planners letter dated March 22nd, we agree with all the items in Section 4 under, to comply with all the items under Section 4, subdivision plan and plan details.
I have a couple of questions, Donna. The microphone? Yeah, well, I guess we'll share. A couple of questions. The township's ordinance is a little unusual in this area in that the total side yard setbacks have to be 15 feet, but each individual side yard setback has to be 9 feet. So if you have 2 9-foot setbacks, then you, by nature, are exceeding the ordinance minimum requirement of 15 feet. So in this instance, the applicant has respected the side yard setbacks on the outside of the lots. Is that correct? So the exterior side yard setbacks to our neighbors is 9 feet or greater.
That's correct.
So the variance relief that's requested is interior, it's into ourselves.
That is correct.
Okay. And then with regard to the driveways, the parking analysis requires for both of these lots 4 parking spaces, but we're able to achieve an additional parking space to have 5 parking spaces, so we have more off-street parking than would be required.
That also is correct.
There was a note on the plan that the front yard setback was reduced to 11.6 feet, but that was an error. And we do, on the existing home, we're going to maintain the existing setback.
That's correct. On this plan that we're looking at, we will revise it to change the zoning table for the front setback for lot 776.11 from 14.4 to the
No, from 11.6.
Thank you, from 11.6 to 14.4, and that was due to the fact that at the time, it was assumed that the porch would be covered, and the porch is not covered.
And then with regard to the impervious surface that you're creating for the parking area and the additions, you're still able to respect the township's floor area ratio and the landscaped area ratio.
That is correct.
Mr. Chair, I have no further questions of Ms. Bullock. She's available to the board and your professionals for any questions they might have.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thanks, Don.
Cole?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant's engineer had addressed most of the comments in Section 4 of Vina and my report dated, I believe it was yesterday, March 22nd. I just wanted to bring
one, to the applicant's attention and then to this board, that as a condition of approval, the application should be subject to the requirements of the residential development fee under our affordable housing regulations. So should the applicant or the builder of the new home not reside in the home, they are then assessed a residential fee equal to 1.5% of the equalized assessed value of residential development, and that's our affordable housing, not our affordable housing, but the state affordable housing regulations. Everything else in my memo is really subject to map filing laws for the subdivision itself, with the exception of the comment that I had made, that first comment on the existing home. It appears, based on a recent site visit, that the front staircase doesn't go out towards the street, and I believe it's probably because of the grade change, that it now goes to a landing, and then it's dispersed to either side, like east and west direction. So I don't know if that's going to change, because it looks like that was the recent improvement with some concrete landings. Is the walk going to be constructed to the driveway?
I'll have to see how that'll work out, where because the stairs now will go both go along the side of the house, each direction. So I'm really not sure right now if he's just going to connect it to the driveway, but we will provide the correct steps as they are shown. It's as a part of the final plan for you.
Okay. All right, that's it. That's all my questions.
Okay, Vina?
I actually don't have any questions. However, I don't know if it's going to be Peter or the planner or the engineer, but I think you should explain what improvements have been done on the existing building, because when initially we were looking at the Google Earth imagery, the building really needed some help and was in need of some serious rehabilitation. But upon site visit, we noticed that there have been significant improvements to the building. So can you just explain? Because I believe all the improvements were done within the last 2 years.
The home was renovated because it was in need of renovation, and it was done with all permits and approvals by the township's building department.
Is it completed?
Yeah, I believe the renovations are complete. Yeah.
So the originally the home had access on the side. There was a ramp and stairs on the side, which have now been moved. So on the side there is just an emergency egress window, and that's pretty much it.
Yes, and the protruding laundry room that would have crossed over the property line was removed also in anticipation of this subdivision.
That's correct. I believe there are 2 or 3 trees on the property that will be removed as part of the new home, correct?
Yeah, and to answer that comment, and Nicole's understood about the COA fees, and will comply with the tree ordinance, and I think we'll try and file by deed too. But we'll provide you with the maps that you need in order to approve them. But I think a deed for this makes more sense.
Thank you.
Peter, I would just ask if you're filing by deed to make the plan, because we require it as per map filing laws, whether you're filing or not, just make it part or an exhibit of that deed to better clarify, especially in the future.
Yeah, as a practice for me, I always include the legal description and then a copy of the subdivision map.
Is the applicant going to live in the new house?
No, I don't believe so.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else from you guys? No? Okay. Questions from any of the board members?
Chairman, I have a question.
Mr. Lauer?
The previous mentioned swale, will that be between the 2 houses, the new house and the existing house?
Yes, you can see it in the center of the 2 dwellings. That dashed line is the limited disturbance, and it makes the plan look confusing, but there is a contour between the 2 buildings. Elevation 60, it's a little loop, and that will keep the water running in a positive direction toward the street and away from the foundations. Right now, the sloping of the property is just a straight slope.
And will that swale be entirely on the new lot?
It'll be on both. when they grade it out, I mean, that being on or over the line, when they finalize the grading between the buildings, that swell will be there, and it might just go a few feet on the other lot, but it's just grading as,
Will there be a problem if somebody puts up a fence right on the property?
no, sir.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, with that,
If I could, I can move on to bring up
we
Allison.
have to open public for each individual witness.
You do it for each one?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'd like to open up the public portion if anybody has any questions for this witness. Going once? What? Okay, we'll close the public portion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Allison, if you could join me. How are we doing?
Thank you.
Hi. Would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And could you please state your name and spell it for the record?
Allison Coffin, Coffin, like the box.
Thank you.
So unpleasant every time you say that.
But it works.
I don't know if I'm on, but Allison, can you share
Yeah,
with the
sure.
board, just update the board as to your licensure.
Hi, my name's Allison Coffin. I have a bachelor's degree from Boston College. I'm a licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey. I'm also certified by the American Institute of Certified Planners. Had my license and certification, I think, since 2005. I've appeared as an expert witness in front of more than 100 communities throughout the state, though I tend to be lazy and like to stick to Monmouth, Ocean, and Middlesex counties. And I am in front of your zoning board here very frequently, but less frequently here at the planning board.
You've testified here, though?
Yes. Yes, I have.
Okay, accepted. Thank you.
You just take the board through the preparation that you did in your analysis of the variance.
Sure.
please.
To prepare for tonight, I looked at the plans, I went and I visited the site, I interviewed the applicant, I read your professionals' reports. We have a subject site that's a 10,000 square foot rectangular lot. It has an existing single-family home on it that's off to one side, and the applicant is asking you to approve a subdivision of this site that would create 2 new lots, preserve the existing home on one lot, and allow for the construction of a new home on the other lot, but this subdivision does require a waiver and some variances. The site's located in the R5 zone. The home is permitted, the lot sizes are permitted, the residential density is permitted. There's just some variance relief necessary for the existing front yard setback to the existing home and to the side yard setbacks that are created by that subdivision line. And there's waivers for the parking. So I want to look first at the waivers. The applicant requires waivers for the parking setback where 5 feet is required. The one lot has 3 feet and the other lot has 4 feet. But these waivers allow for each of these new lots to provide off-street parking to support the existing and proposed dwelling, where currently the dwelling uses on-street parking. And this is an improvement over the existing condition. Then the variances that we're looking at. These are bulk or C variances, and there are 2 tests within the municipal land use law for this type of variance. The first is a C1 standard. It's the hardship variance, when something such as a lot's unique shape, its topographic conditions, or legal pre-existing structures creates a situation where the strict application of the ordinance results in hardship. And the second standard, the C2 standard, is justified when the variance request advances the purposes of the municipal land use law, and the deviation from the ordinance, the benefits of that substantially outweigh the detriments. It's my opinion that the variances that are being requested tonight can be granted, some under the C1 and some under the C2 standard. So that C1 standard, the hardship standard, we have a front yard setback for proposed lot 77.6.11, and that's to an existing dwelling. This is an existing condition, but it's carried forward onto the newly created lot. The side yard setback for this lot is also to the existing dwelling. Now, the applicant previously renovated this home to eliminate a bump out on this side of the building that would have intruded further into the side yard with the intention of complying with the ordinance's required 15-foot combined side yard setback, but it's not possible to provide 9 feet on both sides of the lot due to the location of the pre-existing home. Then looking at the C2 variance for the other side yard setback. The proposed variances here advance the purposes and the intent of the municipal land use law. Purpose A is to promote the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare.
Purpose E is to promote the establishment of appropriate population densities and concentrations that would contribute to the well-being of persons, neighborhoods, communities, regions, and the preservation of the environment. And Purpose G is providing space in an appropriate location for residential development. The benefits of this variance include providing for a population density that is more consistent with the surrounding development pattern than the existing lot. The surrounding area has lots that go primarily from 2,500 square feet to 7,500 square feet, making this 10,000 square foot lot the single largest developed property in this neighborhood. The proposed 5,000 square foot lots is more consistent with the development pattern for this area than the existing condition. And it also allows for preserving the character of the neighborhood by preserving that existing residential home on one of the new created lots. There's no detriment, in my opinion, to the bulk variances that are requested. The proposed side yard setback of 8.8 feet is a de minimis variance. There's no discernible difference from either the adjacent property or from the street between 8.8 feet and 9 feet. The setbacks proposed on both lots allow for property maintenance and adequate light, air, and open space. Now, the ordinance does permit a combined 15-foot side yard setback, which both lots do provide, which does indicate that the side yard setbacks combined for these properties are appropriate. The variances themselves would not substantially impair your master plan or your development ordinance, as the use is permitted and appropriate, and the development intensity proposed is consistent with neighborhood character and permitted in the ordinance. And for those reasons, it's my opinion that you can grant this applicant's request for subdivision with waivers and variances.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have no further questions. She's available to the board, professionals, and public for any questions they may have.
Very good.
I don't have any questions. I just want to make a comment, especially because the zoning board frequently sees applications for single-family homes for the side yard, especially in the R5 zone, because the lots are smaller, and we did recognize the discrepancy in the ordinance with the setback requirement. So the zoning board often sees those applications. This time, it is the planning board that is coming across the situation only because there is a subdivision involved. But there are many other homes in the Lawrence Harbor area that have setbacks that are much smaller than what the zone requires. And it's one thing on my to-do list to look at the zoning standards and then come up with standards that are more consistent with what exists in the area.
Okay.
But I don't have any questions for Allison.
Okay, thank you. Nicole, anything from you? Okay. Anybody on the board have any questions for this witness? Okay, with that, I will open it up to the public for any questions for this witness. Yeah. Okay, can you come on up? Now, well, is the question for the witness, for this witness?
No, well, she was talking about the variance in Lawrence Harbor properties. And from what I remember, a lot of them are grandfathered in. So, just so you know.
Yeah, I mean, the ones that exist, they do exist, right? You really can't do much about it. However, when a homeowner wants to do improvements on the property, suppose you want to put a second floor on the property, right? So most of the times what happens is homeowners have to come to the zoning board for a floor area ratio variance. But in addition to that, there is an existing nonconformity which is the grandfathered in side yard setback. In some occasions, if you are even slightly creating an addition on the property or adding a deck or anything, the existing nonconformity is then exacerbated, and that's when you need to come to the zoning board for approval. So you're correct, those are existing nonconformities, and that's why I said that one of the things on my to-do list is that R5 zone was created way back, but then there were subdivisions created with with much smaller homes. So now the bulk standards, the lot area requirement, the side yard requirements, they don't really match up. The ordinance does not match up with what exists. And then, so it needs to be reevaluated so that homeowners don't have to go back to the zoning board to get approvals if the ordinance is fixed. And that's something I have been wanting to look at. Did I answer your question?
Not really, but okay.
Okay.
Well, you can't really make changes on pre-existing properties that are grandfathered in. Is that what you're saying? Are you talking about the new properties or?
No, I think
I'm confused about that.
I think what Vina is saying is that she's looking at what the existing ordinance is and changing it so that the homeowners, when they need to do an addition or they want to do something, they don't need to come to the zoning board anymore. So if it's, I'm sure I'm using wrong numbers. If it's 10 feet
Yeah.
and everything is mainly 9 feet, make it 9 feet so that when you do come up, so it takes a step out.
You want to make it to where it's at now.
Exactly. And because going to the zoning board is an added expense. And if you might have noticed, in the last 5 years, the administration has been fixing a lot of these ordinance inconsistencies. That's what I call them. Because 5 years down the line, there was a section in the ordinance that required if your basement is unfinished, then it's not included in the floor area ratio. However, the minute you want to finish your basement, it triggers a floor area ratio variance, and which means you're forced to go to the zoning board. The expense to get that done is somewhere between $1,000 to $2,000 because now you need a planner to justify your D variance. We eliminated that. We changed the definition of floor area ratio to include those basements. Similarly, we have been cleaning up a lot of sections of the ordinance to make them consistent. And if you have heard me speak at many of the council meetings, I have been looking at not just Lawrence Harbor, but throughout the township, there were cluster zones created, which means the underlying zone had different standards, but then the project was approved with lesser or smaller lot size. I want to create ordinances that are consistent with what exists on the property so that when somebody wants to put a deck or a patio, you don't have to go to the zoning board. You can do it just by filing a building permit.
Thank you.
Okay, any more questions from the public for this witness?
Next door.
Right next door, yeah, it's one lot being subdivided into two. Yes. Yes, exactly. Okay, I'll close the public portion, being that there's no more questions.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much. I think it's a rather straightforward application. It's, what we want to see, I think, in this area, somebody rebuilding a house and filling in the vacant lots there and with new construction. So I would ask if the board would act favorably on the application. Done a number of these.
Okay, and that completes your testimony?
Yes.
Okay, any additional questions from board professionals or board members? And none from the public? Okay. And Mr. Sordillo will summarize.
Yes, sorry. 1 second. A vote in favor of this application would be granting the requested minor subdivision with the variances outlined in the testimony presented towards the board. The only conditions I have are, in addition to the standard conditions, which includes compliance with the engineering and the township and the board plan professional reports, is that the applicant shall be subject, which is also one of our standard terms, but specifically calling it out, that the subject property would be subject to the township's affordable housing ordinance, specifically relating to the development fee upon construction following the requirements of same. That's all I have.
Okay, in my notes, I have the revised setback on the plans. Is that it? Do you have that as a condition?
Yeah, I didn't list it as a condition, but yes, the applicant did testify that they will be revising the plans to show the appropriate setbacks. and the correction to, also the correction to the front patio walk, steps.
Okay, and as Nicole mentioned, COA.
Yep.
And the tree ordinance. Right, there's a few remaining trees on the,
Yes, that's compliance with the compliance with the township's ordinances moving forward. There was no additional exceptions or waivers being granted. Very good.
okay. With that, I will take it to a vote. So can I have a motion
I'll make a motion to approve.
by Mr. Lauer and a second by Keith?
I don't know if Keith can second.
I'll second it.
Oh, Mr. Petty?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ms. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. Makis?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Renner?
Yes.
Mr. Petty?
Yes.
Chair Marucci?
Yes.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, with that, we'll give it a couple of seconds, and then we're going to move on to the public hearing. That's as to why everybody's here.
I'll go with 235 first. Summers.
Solar.
No, that's the warehouse for Summerside.
Okay, we are ready to begin the public hearing, and we are going to start on the agenda. If anybody has a copy of the agenda, we're going to start with number 2, which is Route 35 intersection, area in need of redevelopment and rehabilitation study, and that will be presented by Ms. Sawant. Joe?
Yes. Oh, sorry. I was taking my notes. My apologies. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
My qualifications.
Well, I think the board's going to accept your qualifications, but if you want to put them for the record, you can.
I'll just put it on record. I'm Veena Savant. I am a professional planner licensed in the state of New Jersey to practice professional planning. I'm certified nationally by the American Institute of Certified Planners. I hold a bachelor's degree in architecture from Mumbai University, India, and I hold a dual master's in urban planning and policy making from NYU. I have been practicing planning since 2004. I have testified before numerous boards in New Jersey, including municipalities in Sussex, Bergen, Essex, Monmouth, Bergen, Middlesex County.
Qualifications accepted.
Thank you, Board. So before I get into the study, I think that there is a lot of questions the residents have. In the last 2 weeks, I've been attending to numerous phone calls, some of them rumors, some of them because the redevelopment words really scares everybody. So I think I want to take this opportunity to just explain the process before I get into the study. Because tonight there are 2 area investigation studies. One is the Route 35 corridor, and then the others is the Summer or the Old Bridge landfill site. So in 1992, the state of New Jersey enacted a law, which is called as the Local Housing and Redevelopment Law, which actually was which actually enabled municipalities to transform underutilized or poorly designed areas into economically viable or productive use areas to help increase the tax base. Because what happened is, not that before 1992 there was nothing, there were laws in place, and Joe, please chime in if I'm wrong anytime. But there were laws in place. One of them was called the Blighted Act, which means that that act only enabled municipalities if there were blighted areas. But if there were areas that had few abandoned buildings or buildings that needed some makeup, as you may call, the municipality didn't have that authority. So in 1992, what happened is the state came up with a law and actually created 2 sections for it. One was the redevelopment, and the other was rehabilitation. The primary difference between redevelopment and rehabilitation is, with redevelopment, the state enabled the municipality to exercise the power of eminent domain or the taking. And it allowed the municipality to use a pilot program, which is payment in lieu of taxes. What that means is when you are in a redevelopment area, you could ask the municipality for a tax exemption up to 30 years. That doesn't mean that you're exempt from paying taxes. All that it means is you would have slightly reduced taxes. But what that would do is with the money you save on the taxes, the municipality was able to get off-site improvements, like whether it's roadway connections, sidewalks. That money was used for that. But again, it allowed a municipality to exercise eminent domain. Now, before it raises a lot more questions, I want to say Old Bridge Township, in none of the redevelopment plans that have written, have exercised the power of eminent domain. We will not be taking anybody's property. That's not the township's policy. Every plan that has been written in the last 20 years has been just for redevelopment. With this area specifically, the Route 35, what we introduced is a rehabilitation criteria. And you just heard an application in front of you. If you would have seen the home that was rehabilitated, it was in a shocking state. It was in a state of disrepair. So what rehabilitation did to the municipality is it allowed the municipality to work with homeowners to give them up to 5 years of tax exemption. And what that does is, if I'm a homeowner who owns a house in a rehabilitation area, then I can come to the council, ask for a tax exemption. And if the council, there is a process. It's not right, you just go and come and ask the council and you get it approved. No, there is a process, and I'll get into that. But you can ask the council to give you up to 5 years of tax exemption. And what happens is, when you get that, you use that money to fix your house, fix your roof, fix your sidings. The benefit to the township is now you have an area where, buildings are falling apart, they are not up to the standards. You fix your property, it increases property value. You encourage people to reinvest in their property. You allow the area to beautify and be better. With Lawrence Harbor, you have seen most of the areas, there are no sidewalks. There is no parking. So every time a homeowner comes in front of the zoning board, Nicole and I specifically have to look at the property to see if there is any way we can fit in a parking stall. So what happens with rehabilitation is it allows homeowners, unless the homeowner wants to do something with their property, the township is not going to force them to do anything. The township is not going to come knocking at your door saying, you need to fix your house. That's not the intention. This is just a benefit, and the way it works is, even with rehabilitation, if tonight the planning board decides that the area can be declared as an area in need of redevelopment, it makes a recommendation to the township council. The township council then declares the area as in need of redevelopment and rehabilitation. Then the council has to come up with something called as a general ordinance when it comes to a rehabilitation law. And what that general ordinance does is it creates an eligibility criteria. Old Bridge has not done it before. There are other towns that have done it. Montclair has it. Plainfield has it. There are other places that have it. But the general ordinance has an eligibility criteria. They have the type of work that can be performed. There is a review committee that reviews your application. There's an application form. They review it. If they deem necessary, or they think that you qualify, then it's presented to the council, and then council approves the tax exemption. So that's the process. In where we are tonight in the process is every municipality, most of them, the larger ones, have a redevelopment agency. I see some of the redevelopment agency members here tonight. The role of the redevelopment agency is to look at the township, look at areas that can be revitalized, can be rehabilitated. 4 years back, I was in front of the planning board with an area investigation study for a similar area on Old Matavon Road. It was again a redevelopment and rehabilitation area because there are residences involved. There is no plan written for it. It was a study, it was a designation, and if you pass by that road today, you will see that some properties are already, people have started fixing their properties, people have started reinvesting in their properties. So what happens is the agency discusses among themselves, obviously with the help of the township planner or our outside consultant, a planning consultant, and they come up with areas that they want to revitalize, they want to see some economic growth in those areas. They bring it up to the council, they pass a resolution, they make a recommendation to the township council. The township council, where I go in or the planning consultant goes in, makes a presentation, and then if they deem necessary, they pass a resolution authorizing the planning board to undertake the study. And this all steps are laid out in the redevelopment law. So in 2020, actually, the council authorized the planning board to undertake a study. So here we are. The planning board authorized me to take up the study. Tonight, I'm just presenting the study. There is no plan in place. I have heard numerous residents calling me saying that I have heard there's a mixed-use building, there are plans, you're working with a developer. Till date, the administration or myself, I have not seen a single concept. There is no plan in place. This is a first baby step. It's a long and lengthy process. I don't know how many of you really follow the planning efforts that go on in the town, but there was a study, similar study done for the Runyon area, which is where all the industrial zone or the Bordentown Road, Cheesequake Road is. That study was done in 2016. There was no plan written. When there was a development or a developer who wanted to do something, they reached out to the township. Only if we thought that the plan works, again, we sat with them, the agency heard it, the council heard it, there were numerous public hearings. Public will be noticed when a plan is written because that's the final ordinance. But that happens way later. In Runyon area, right now, there are only two plans that were written, and they were written for individual properties. And there was public involvement. There were neighbors involved. This is just the first step. There is no plan. Today, all I'm doing is the redevelopment law and the rehabilitation law lays out, the redevelopment law has 8 criterias. Rehabilitation has 6 criterias. All I do is I look at a property and see if it meets any of the criteria, because the law requires that at least one criteria has to be met for you to be even included in the area. If you don't meet any criteria, then you're not considered within the redevelopment area. So tonight, what you have seen online or the report that is there just goes through each property to see whether it qualifies. I believe it qualifies. I truly believe that it will benefit the residents that live there. You will be able to fix up your properties. If you wish to redevelop your properties, it's completely upon you. The township is not going to enforce anything. There is no plan in place. So with that, I hope I said it right.
You said it perfectly, Veena. I just wanted to stress one point that you made, and I think it's important to stress, is about the condemnation taking that was brought. Not only does Old Bridge hasn't done it and doesn't plan to do it, but the process that has been taking place so far doesn't allow it. If the municipality wanted to, utilize eminent domain or condemnation for this or any of the other redevelopment, it has to do so right from the start. Every resolution has to state it. Every notice has to specifically call it out. It has to be done throughout the whole period, and every step of the process. So I just want to be clear, so there's no fear that we're telling you now there's no condemnation and you think that maybe a year down the road the municipality might change its mind. It can't. It has to, if it wants to do that, it has to start from the beginning and start the whole process with full notice the whole time, stating to the public, this is for condemnation purposes. In this case, it wasn't. All of the resolutions, all of the actions taken were specifically for non-condemnation. So I just want to, that is sometimes a very common fear when they hear the terms redevelopment, because sometimes those are hand in hand. But in this case, it can't happen. It just can't happen unless this whole process starts from the beginning all over again, and everyone will be given notice of that fact. So I just wanted to really stress that point.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Steve, do you have any
I do.
input?
Thank you, Vina. That was a good explanation. A couple of things. I am the executive director of Economic Development Office. I'm also on the redevelopment agency. And one thing that you need to know is the redevelopment agency is made up of 6 members, and 4 of those members live in your area. One of them is our Councilman Garcia. All decisions that are made to improve an area. One of the focuses, and the reason why this has come about, is to look at the properties that are on Route 35 going towards Cliffwood and Cliffwood Beach. Those properties are the ones that we're really looking at to get investment, because they're just so disheveled and downgraded. And so one of the functions is to get investment in those properties and people to fix up those properties on the Route 35 corridor. So as you go into the south towns, you see all the investment that's taking place where the LA Fitness has been revitalized. If you go north, you're going to go up into South Amboy, where you see their waterfronts being developed, where they're bringing more people to town. So the main focus was, from our redevelopment agency, being the executive director on there, is to take those businesses, those buildings and stuff on Route 35 that had just basically deteriorated to nothing, and bring people to invest in them, or put whatever it might be, a shopping center, a store, something like that of that nature. So we don't want to see, we're trying to fix that. That's the main focus of this. But when you look at it, you look at an entire area, as Vina had mentioned. But it's that 35 corridor that we're focused on in getting those broken down buildings for people to come and invest. So I just wanted to lay that out in some respect. So you want to look at the whole area, as Vina said, and you want to look at it. It's not specifically focusing on your homes. It's that particular corridor. So we can, as the Economic Development Officer, as you enter Old Bridge, we want them to see the best of Old Bridge as you drive down that lane, instead of those broken down buildings that somebody's not repairing, where they can go out and get an investment, or take what Wiener said and say, I could take my property now and I can get a pilot program and invest and fix it up and make it a building that's presentable for our community. So, thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Tina?
Thank you. So with this, I'll just begin the presentation. What you have on the screen is the Route 35 intersection. Next slide. This is the area that we are looking into tonight. And again, this is just the first step, because since this was the main intersection, it is currently the EDO 3 zone where we have commercial activity. We started off with this area, but the idea is to slowly cover other areas along Route 35. So there will be other studies for Route 35 that will follow. This is the first one in the line. The reason we chose this area is there are some municipally owned properties, there are some recreational facilities, there is commercial activity in this area. There is a strip mall within the area which has been struggling to rent out space. Every few years, we hear that they are looking for new tenancy. So the area will help them. There are 2 gas stations at the corner, and probably you might not know, but both of them are on NJDEP's list. They are brownfield sites. So those need to be cleaned up as well. So the area is specifically at the intersection of Lawrence Parkway and Route 35. The beauty of this area is there are 2 bus lines that traverse through this area. One takes you directly to New York, the other takes you to the Old Bridge commuter parking lot. So it's a great location to start the redevelopment process and, see how you can rehabilitate the area. The old post office building is really in need of rehab. You want buildings in that area that you are proud of. You want to see some activity in the area. Right now, when you go there, the parking lot is in need of repair. The curb cuts are so wide open that it's dangerous. There are few homes on Route 35 that directly back out on 35. It's a high-speed highway. There's vehicles traversing at 50, 55 miles an hour, and you have a driveway. It's a dangerous location. So that's the area we begin with. In this area also lies our recreation building. I just want to reiterate that some of the properties that are within the area that are township owned are also on our Green Acres funded ROSI list, which is the Recreation Open Space Inventory. We do not intend to build anything on it. They are funded by Green Acres, so they have to be used for recreation. I know there were some calls that we are designating this area so that we can get more funding for the area. That's not true. Actually, Ms. Shapiro had made a presentation 2 months ago regarding the Lawrence Harbor Community Building. That recreation building is currently used for half-day summer camps for some adult classes. It's a rec facility that is used, but it's too small. There have not been any renovations done to that building in the past. Ms. Shapiro had tried to reach out and seek funding, and we were lucky that for 2023 fiscal year, Congressman Pallone was able to secure federal appropriations from the community project funding for $2.25 million just for the construction of that building. But that is separate. It has nothing to do with the area designation. The council had deemed this area to, they had asked the planning board to look at the area way before Ms. Shapiro even applied or worked on the community building. So that building lies there. That will still retain the recreational amenities that are there will remain. In fact, they will be improved, and you will see better amenities coming into that area. So, next slide. The area contains 50 parcels, and the area covers roughly 12.9 acres. Next slide. This is just a slide to show the bus lines that traverse through it. What you see on the screen, the circle that you see is quarter-mile radius. That is typically by smart growth walkable distance. So you can easily walk within that area that lies within that circle that you see. Next slide. This is the current zoning map. What you notice is majority of the properties are within the EDO1 zone. So which means, and this is important for each one of you to see, the properties are already zoned for commercial. So today, if somebody wants to go and apply to the zoning board for something else, they can do that even today. They do not have to go through the redevelopment route. Even with your home, if you want to do something with the home, you can still proceed with the zoning board and get those approvals. So you will notice majority of the area again is EDO1, which is commercial. Some of the properties that are along the periphery of the EDO1 zone are R5, and 2 of the recreational facilities or the township-owned parcels are within the ER zone, which is environmental recreation. Next slide. This map just shows the existing land uses. It just shows where there are homes, where there is commercial activity, what is recreational, and the gray area shows what is currently vacant. Next slide. This is essentially a list of the criteria. Like I explained, the redevelopment criteria has 8 criteria, A through, can you go to the next slide? A through H, and Section 3 was specifically written so that if there are two properties that meet a redevelopment criteria, but a property that is sandwiched between them does not, then this area, that property that is in the middle could also be designated if you want to take advantage of redevelopment for a consistency in planning. Next slide. This lists the rehabilitation criteria. This mostly focuses, and many of the residential properties within the study area actually meet the rehabilitation criteria only because one of the element is if your home is more than 50 years old, then you could apply the rehabilitation criteria. So majority of the homes in Lawrence Harbor were built 70 to 80 years ago. The other factor is if the infrastructure is old and is in need of repair. Now, we did communicate with OBMUA, and they have said, yes, the infrastructure is more than 50 years old, but it's not in a state where it needs to be repaired currently, because you have to meet both to be able to use that criteria. There is an environmental contamination. Like I said, there are two sites within the area that are brownfields, so there is environmental contamination. High vacancy rate. There are some malls or strip malls or a building, a commercial building that is currently vacant, which again, the criteria 3 applies to that. There are some properties which have tax delinquencies and it meets criteria 4. Next page, next slide. So in summary, there are 6 parcels within the area that meet redevelopment criteria C, which is because they're vacant. There are 31 parcels within the area that meet criteria D for redevelopment, which means if you have obsolete layout, if you don't have landscaping, you don't have parking or a proper fence, then criteria D can be applied. Or you have a driveway which is at a dangerous location, then criteria D can be applied. All the properties within the area meet criteria H, which is for smart growth, because the area is within the metropolitan planning area. So where the state wants to encourage walkability, they want to encourage mixed use kind of a setup. So that's what criteria H is. Then you go on to the rehabilitation criteria. I already explained there are many properties that are more than 50 years old and need some sort of makeup or rehabilitation, and that's why 22 of the properties meet that criteria. There are 11 parcels that have shown a pattern of vacancy or are underutilized. There are 2 parcels that have brownfields on it. Next slide. So that ends my presentation, and I strongly believe, for all the reasons above, I would recommend that the planning board take the required action and make a recommendation to the council that this area be declared as an area in need of redevelopment and rehabilitation. And I will take any questions.
Member questions first and then the public?
Sure.
Okay, any board members have any questions or comments?
I have one.
Mr. Mamakis?
Vina, can you just explain EDO, the EDO zone?
Yes, it is the Economic Development Opportunity Zone. The zone was created in 2015 to allow an array of commercial uses. And in the past, since 2015 until now, we have keep updating the ordinance just to bring it up to speed, and we can allow more and more commercial activity. In the sense, now I have an application in the planning office which is going to the zoning board for the strip mall where there has been a vacant store, a furniture store for a couple of years, and wants to put a billiard place, and but it's not permitted by the zone. So they have to go to the zoning board. if a redevelopment plan is written in future, it will have much more relaxed standards for then commercial use. But that's what EDO 1 is.
And one other point for the EDO zones in 516 years ago, if somebody lives on 516 and that area is developed with parcels of chain stores or shopping centers, if that person wanted to sell their individual home to be conducive with the shopping centers that are there, because Route 516 being a major artery and as Route 35 is, it allowed, because I had an elderly lady looking to sell her home, but she couldn't sell it to somebody who wanted to put a mall of stores in on Route 516, which you want stores for the neighborhood to go to. And what happens is she wasn't able to sell the house because it was in the EDO, it was in the residential zone. So she would have to come through the whole process of going through the boards and zoning boards. So EDO made it easier for the people who live along the major corridors to sell their properties if an investor wanted to come and put a store or something that was conducive to the EDO zone, the Economic Development Opportunity Zone. So it helps those individuals on that corridor to be able to sell their homes and not be constricted that it's just, it's a residential area and you can't do anything because you have to go in front of the board. So they'll lose that sale of an investor that wanted to come in. So I think that kind of sums it up, how it helps the individuals that live along the corridor. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions or comments from any of the other board members?
Yes, Chairman, I'd like to make a comment. Vina mentioned that this program was instituted in the Old Bridge area, mostly around the old Manawan Road. And recently passing through this area, I've noticed personally that I don't know how many people have improved their homes, but to me, it looked like it was working. So I'm in favor of this program.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I've done the same thing. I've driven through and seen some sidewalks and some improvement going on. It's a good thing. Mr. De Palma?
Yeah, so a comment and then a quick question for Vina. So, being on council, one of the things that we always look at is what's best for the entirety of the area, right? We would never, as long as I'm on council, you'll always have a no vote for me if we're going to look to just take a property away from people. That's not what that is. As Vina has, in my time on council, everything that has come in front of us, we have, had the non-condemnation and the no eminent domain. So all this does is allow the area to be looked at to be revitalized. And I believe that there are the incentives that Ms. Swan was talking about that become available that are not available to the residents if this is not done. So I just wanted to ask with this particular plan, besides the tax incentives, what other, if any, incentives are there for?
Just one correction. It's a study, so the plan.
As it goes on, yes. So.
I mean, the state has various other incentive programs, but the most effective is the redevelopment rehabilitation because it allows you to grant the tax exemption, which is not allowed by other programs, because there is a smart growth grant that you can apply to, but that would not bring in as much, or you would not really see the revitalization efforts as quickly as you really see it through redevelopment planning or rehabilitation planning.
What's a typical time frame from, obviously as a study, how long does the study typically take?
So tonight the study is complete. It is a lot of work. We make numerous site visits. There's a photo imagery that we take. We look at tax records, we look at building code violations. We actually, the engineering office does a thorough analysis of the roadway system within the area. Similarly, the municipal utility authority does their investigation. And then after we get all the information from all the departments, we compile it, and then I evaluate each property based on all the information that is gathered to assign a criteria. So it is a lengthy process. This has at least taken me 6 months to reach where I am tonight, and this is just the first step, so it's going to be a long process.
Okay. Ms. Cannon?
Okay, as far as the EDO or any of rehab, I'm sorry. As far as the EDO or rehabbing, it is all up to the residents to whether they participate in any of these, whether it's taking the tax abatement to do something with your home or decide you want to sell, and then it would be more favorable to you if it was zoned properly. So it is ultimately your decision as to whether you want to participate in any of this. And I think that needs just to be emphasized, because I think that is a real concern.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. Anyone else? Okay, with that, we're going to open it to the public for questions, and I would just like to ask if everybody that wants to ask a question comes up to the microphone and we get your name and your address, and then you can ask your questions. Sir?
So I have a question. I'm Deirdre Locascio. I'm 233 Garfield Avenue in Lawrence Harbor. So I understood everything that you said, and you made reference to the sidewalks and the pedestrians, and that there's a quarter-mile circle that people can walk to wherever. But the reality is, no one can walk anywhere over there without getting killed, practically, because the intersection is a mess. Every day I see at least one person go in the wrong direction. I mean, in the past 2 weeks, I've been privy to be in the first car at the light and somebody coming off of Route 35 and making a right. I didn't hear you put enough in your study about people actually how they can get across to the new things that are going to be happening or to the water. So is this the right place for that, or will that be something else?
You're absolutely right, but that actually happens in the redevelopment plan stage, which is the next step. That's when I really write a vision for that area, and that becomes the ordinance. So this is just the first step.
Right.
So what needs to be planned for the future will happen in the coming years, and there will be public participation, and there will be a lot of studies. So, for example, if somebody wants to come and redevelop the corner, right? When they come in, we evaluate what improvements can be done at the corner to avoid those situations. And that is covered by the redevelopment plan, because there is a separate section for circulation plan and element. It covers sidewalks, crosswalks, any investments in the roadways is covered by that element. But that is, again, a future step. Tonight, it's just whether it meets the criteria or not.
And I understand that too, but I'm just going to say, you know, from living over there, that's something that has to be addressed sooner than later. Like, I can't be waiting for studies down
We
there.
agree.
Your name and your street you live on?
Again? Oh, Deirdre.
Again?
I did say that.
No.
I did
Oh,
say that.
You did?
Pay attention, Dean.
All right.
Pay attention.
Talk a little closer, Dean.
It's Deirdre Locascio. It's 233 Garfield Avenue in Lawrence Harbor.
Thank you.
Chairman, just to
thank
address
you.
that. It's good that you come up and provide those comments. Maybe some of that might not have been included, but it is. But whatever you bring up and forward, it's your voice to allow stuff to take place that might need to take place, or they may miss. You never know. Thank you.
Even with Gary Cardinal, 365 Shoreland Circle,
See, now that I heard.
even without a plan, the library was closed and then abandoned and then allowed to fall into a state of disrepair. The rumor is that the building's been sold, but the land is owned by the township. Can you address any of that?
That is incorrect.
It's incorrect. The buildings
The
hasn't been
township still owns the library?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Okay, and will you be starting there since it's best to get your own house in order first?
Yes.
That'll be in the plan.
I think he's.
I just got my name's George Stimsey, 15 Hilltop Boulevard, Cliffwood Beach. I'm the president of Lawrence Harbor Community Church. And I'm curious, how's this going to affect them? Well, we're being tested and checked on several times a year by the state. How's that going to work?
So there will be no effect. Like I said, unless the church wants to do anything with their property, there will be no effect on it.
Okay, because we have a daycare and everything back there.
That is correct. So you can continue business as usual. It does not really, the designation does not affect you until you want to do, until the church wants to do anything with the property.
All right, appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Michael Devine. I own the property on Lawrence Parkway, 275. I have a question. I looked at the latest report from 313. Are you able to bring up that whole report to page 12 for the redevelopment area, item G? Because that could be where people are confused, because it states with regards to if the municipality governing body, if you can bring it up, it'd be easier. You could explain it to us.
So that is straight from the local housing and redevelopment law. There is a format every redevelopment study has to follow. It just states the law it is, but in the end, that's why it's written that the township will not be exercising eminent domain. It just gives all the listing from the actual law. So it's a direct quotation.
But in here, it does state that if you don't accept a deal, then eminent domain will be.
That is exactly what I'm saying. That's straight from the law. The report right in the beginning says, and like Mr. Cerdello explained, for a municipality to exercise eminent domain, it has to be done from the word go, which means when the redevelopment agency makes a recommendation to the council, it has to come right from that stage. You cannot exercise, the municipality cannot exercise eminent domain or cannot take any property now because we have already declared that there will be no eminent domain. This is straight quotation. So for municipalities that want to exercise the power of eminent domain, the law was written, but you don't have to avail it. Every municipality doesn't use it. So in my experience, I've done numerous redevelopment studies or plans. There was only one township that has exercised eminent domain, but others, most of the suburban communities have done a non-condemnation plan. But by law, I have to state the law. And that is why in numerous occasions in the report, I say Old Bridge Township will not be, this is a non-condemnation study, and Old Bridge Township will not exercise eminent domain.
And that would be in the.
It is in the report. It is right on the first page of the report.
Mr. Chairman, I might be able to address that. I think what he's more concerned of what the language of the statute actually.
Correct, and that's the statute.
The statute does allow for, and I think this is what you're in section G, does say that even if you started a non-condemnation process, you can change it at some point. And that's what is that what your concern was with section G?
That's what I'm trying to understand, because it's
Yes.
stating that if you don't accept, then it'll be decided for you, and
The case
eminent
law,
domain
the
will
case
happen.
law on that section has clarified that somewhat, and it's really on two avenues. One, it's dealing with a different type of redevelopment project than what we're facing here. That is a specific redevelopment project where, let's say it was for argument purposes for affordable housing development, the town is forced to build a certain number of units and, doesn't have a developer who's willing to do it, so the township is going out there and, bidding out the project itself. And so it has to come up with a piece of property that does it, and it has this group of properties that it owns, but might not own a piece of property in the middle, and assumes that it's going to be able to negotiate a deal. Or maybe the owner of that property was willing to work with the township at some point. And then so they proceed the non-condemnation, and then at some point, that falls through, and the township still needs that piece of property to finish that particular overall project. That's when it's a specific project redevelopment, not what's being presented here, which is an overall, basically an overlay zone that will be affecting all the properties and slightly different, some commercial, some residential. And even in that case, the case law has also determined that it's not just that they can just do it. You have to start the process over to an extent. You don't have to, what it's saying is you don't have to deem it redevelopment, meeting the criteria anymore, but you still have to notice the public. There's still certain procedures that have to take place, that you go out and advise that the township is now changing and is going to proceed under condemnation. And it's an involved process. It's not just simply, at one council meeting, they discuss it and just said, hey, you know what, we're going to change our mind. We're going to, now make this condemnation. We're going to take all these properties. That's just not how it works. Even though that language, I understand in G, kind of implies that, at any time the township can change its mind. That's not really what it means. And the case law has further explained that that's just for a specific project to need to complete it, and there's still required procedures and notices that need to go out. It's not that it can just flip a switch.
Okay. The other issue I have is you're referring to it as a corridor, up and down 35, which I understand. But when we met the term crosshairs, it's really like a footprint. It covers a lot of areas, 50 units. But if decisions were made based on building or redoing, redeveloping, or bettering the buildings on the corridor, will those things roll over then into Lawrence Parkway and the other areas because we're all OBD or whatever it was, EOD? Will those decisions then affect us if it's included in one study, one development plan that goes through?
So with the residential units, yes, it can, but it can otherwise too, right? Suppose you were excluded. One, you don't have the advantage of using the rehabilitation designation to fix up your properties, right? But somebody, if your neighbor, suppose your property is next to a commercial property. The commercial property is within the redevelopment area. So without being in the study, it could still impact you because now the commercial property is going to be developed. Here, the advantage is, A, you can take advantage of the designation. You could either rehabilitate your property through the short-term tax exemption. Two, in future, and this I'm talking hypothetically because obviously those details are worked out when a plan is written for the area, when the vision is actually created. It's too soon to talk about it. But if that non-residential or commercial property owner wants to buy your property is now more valuable because he needs your property, suppose for parking or for any reason, or to just create a buffer. Your property value has gone up. It's totally up to you whether you want to sell it to the next door developer or maintain your property as is. If you want to maintain your property as is, as residential use, then you have the ability to now fix up your property. If you're excluded from the study, you don't really benefit. I'll give you a classic example because I know the resident must be in the crowd somewhere. There was a lady who called me whose property abuts Gogorama, right? And she is in residential area, right? And her question was, how does this impact me? I'm like, it really doesn't, because you are right next to a redevelopment area. In future, when the redevelopment area boundary is enlarged or expanded, you might be included. But the advantage when you're included in the property is that you have a choice then. Do you want to use the appraised or the increased value on the property and take advantage of it and sell it to the next door neighbor, or you want to maintain your single family home. The choice is yours. But if you're not within a redevelopment area, you don't really get the advantage, or your property value remains the same. You cannot fix your property or take advantage of the tax abatements, and it cannot really stop your neighbor from developing his property because he's in a commercial zone. So that is why these parcels were included. It's an added benefit to be in a redevelopment area. Because what you notice is, like, for example, Old Matawan Road. When I did the study 4 years back, right, there was no investment in that area. If you drive through that area, it was very quiet. The commercial uses were dying, nothing really attractive. Now when you go there, you see activity. I get calls, the zoning office get calls, because there are people who want to occupy those vacant stores and want to fix up their properties, put up new signs and make it more attractive. So you just by the designation, your property value goes up, and that has been historically true.
Vina?
So it's completely, again, up to you whether you want to take advantage. If you want to participate in it, avail the the added advantage.
So, let me add to that, and maybe you can clarify it. So you have an EDO 1 zone, you have the residential zones around it, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is just an overlay over it. It doesn't change the zones.
So actually, we shouldn't even be talking about the overlays, because the overlays come into picture when you write a redevelopment plan. There is no plan in place. That the planning for the area needs to take place. But for us to create a plan, we need to first designate the area. So the overlay
is needed. Let's use the library as an example.
Sure.
I think we can all go there and look at it and say, what's going
Can
on?
you speak into the microphone?
Trying to understand what's going on with the library. Again, my property is directly next door. I don't even know when it was abandoned. 1 year, 2 years ago? Can somebody?
Yeah, before COVID.
Excuse me?
I think it was right before COVID.
Just before COVID.
Yeah.
I try to rent out my building, and I have a hard time when I walk past it, and I have to say, well, this is the library. I used to be able to say, oh, this is the library, and be very proud of it. They had raccoons living in the wall. They had skunks. I saw rats running from the building. I spoke to, I think it was Cassie, about the issue. They did put wood up on the wall. In December, when we had the freezing temperatures, I just happened to be there because now I have cockroaches, and it cost me $1,000 to do this exterminating, which I believe is coming from the library. So yeah, it really definitely needs some rehabilitation here. The water was pouring out of the front of the building. The people called the township, the water department came and shut off the water. Well, I can only visualize that basement is now an Olympic-sized swimming pool. I used to have a little bit of water coming in my back wall. Now I have water coming in my front wall. When I call the township and I ask about it, I don't get the phone calls back anymore. So, all right, this is going to rehabilitate us. What am I supposed to do now? If you remember, I was trying to sell it. I met with you last year.
Yes.
Nobody wanted to buy it. I missed the bubble. I already went down 100,000 plus. So,
but don't you, after hearing my presentation, right? And we have talked before a couple of times. Don't you believe that now with the redevelopment and rehabilitation criteria, the library can make a decision on their property, either fix it, tear it down? It gives them multiple options. But once that property is well maintained and there is a new project, it is going to help your property as well as increase.
How do I rent to people? I have a tenant leaving in July. How am I going to get somebody back in when there's a dump next door?
No, but
my income, we're retired now. I get $50,000 of income off of that building, gross. But you have any idea how hard it is to try to rent when that looks like that. I'm all for it. I bought 35 years ago. The joke was, I bet, if Trump comes in, he wants to bulldoze the neighborhood. Wow, it'd be great. Well, in reality, that's what's going to happen. A developer is going to come in. If it's accurate, what you told me, that you put it on page 1 and print it out, that there will be no condemnation. That was in the letter that was sent to me. That we can all say, all right, if I don't want to move or I don't want to be a part of it, that suddenly the rug's not going to be pulled out.
No, it will not be, and that is why I took oath and I testify. My license is at stake, so this is a non-condemnation plan. Nobody will be taking any property away.
And if somebody...
This will only help, and I said this to you a year ago too, an area designation will only help. It will help any property, whether it's the library, whether it's a private homeowner whose building is in a dilapidated state. For example, the application that was heard, right? Those homeowners will be now able to fix. It is going to increase your property value. It is going to be more valuable, and you will find tenancy for it.
Okay. I know it's not your aspect of the library, but if somebody here could talk to the people involved with the library, clean it up, please. It's disgusting. It's a mess. How much do I have to pay for the problems coming across? I saw a rat running over the other day. My tenants already threatened me, we're not going to pay you rent. I'll tell you what, I lost $20,000 during COVID. People were threatening me. I was able to evict them. The judge in Middlesex finally said, fine, we'll do it. And then the state came through and said, oh, we're going to help people. I mean, this is just the problem with this disconnect that we have. And this is why people are scared. You're sitting there saying things, but there is a disconnect. The state came out and said, oh, we're going to give people back the money they lost. I said, well, they said, connect us with the tenant. They're evicted. Oh, sorry, we can't help you. $20,000 gone. So I need to know that everybody's shaking hands with everybody else, because right now, I'm not going to be able to rent really easily. I'm going to have to get people who are very questionable because they've got nothing left. So if somebody could deal with the library, that'd be great.
I just want to add one thing, because I know Mayor Henry had forwarded me an email very recently, because the state is opening up funding for buildings that are abandoned or are in serious state of disrepair or are considered safe or uninhabitable to be demolished. And but the criteria is that you have to be within a redevelopment area, and then there is funding available to demolish those properties. So this would be the first step. Again, this is an important...
You said the town owns the library.
Right, but even the demolition involves cost, right? So now there are fundings available by the state. It recently came up, it must be like last week, that if you are within a redevelopment area and the township owns a property and it needs to be demoed, then there will be funds available. But again, it was if you are within a redevelopment area, and this is what exactly we're doing.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have any questions? And if I could, I'd like to reiterate that we generally try to keep these question sessions to about 3 minutes per resident, but we're being a little flexible with that.
Hi, I'm Marilyn Thompson. I live on 36 Woodshire East in the Cliffwood section.
Hi, Marilyn.
If I'm listening to all this and all this, why did we do this study? It doesn't matter, it doesn't this, it's not going to happen, this is not going to happen. Why did we do this study in the first place?
Because there are a lot of vacant stores. There are properties along Route 35 that need rehabilitation. They're struggling because they can't find tenancy. So if we do a study and the area is within the redevelopment study that enables these homeowners or these commercial property owners to do something with their property to attract tenants to their property. So that would, and see, once there is high vacancy or a sense of abandonment, that's when the area starts deteriorating. You just heard the gentleman before you say that there is an abandoned or a library building right next to him and it's affecting his property. We want to avoid that, but we can only avoid that if we have the area designated.
I mean, it's a government, it's a Old Bridge Township building, and the only person who's not taking care of the building is you. Anybody else would get variances. I know people that have gotten variances for different things, but you don't seem to be getting any variances on that building.
I hear you.
So I'm still not understanding, you know, a lot of those properties along the 35 where the people have to park along the street, right above there, those houses did have a front, but the street got widened and they lost it. So now that property is devalued, and they have no place but to park right in front of their house. They have no other way to fix their houses, only small little pieces of property. And a business couldn't buy it because it's too small to do anything.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have to go to the mic. No, you can just pull the mic.
I only have really one question. My
Name and address, please.
Oh, Darcy Harris. I live next door to Deirdre,
I
231
knew you two were
Garfield
together. I knew
Avenue.
it.
My question basically is, I kind of understand why you want to do this and attract people, but a lot of businesses really, like, brick and mortar is kind of like going away. It's more like everybody buys online, but I understand where you're coming from to try to attract to the area. My thing is, I rented my house for many years, and now we own it. We're basically going on almost 2 years this summer. I love where I live. I love the water. I love our neighbors. Basically, it's a great neighborhood. I'm kind of a little concerned with their study to attract people. It'd be more traffic and more. And also, what do we have to say when you say businesses to come in? Us, as you know, the neighborhood. Do we have a say to say no? We don't want that type of business, or
Yes, there are public hearings. When an application, any development application, comes in front of the planning board or the zoning board, people within 200 feet are notified. So you have a say in everything that is approved within the township. So there is definitely, you definitely participate when, if a redevelopment plan is written in future. Again, there are numerous public hearings and there are notices sent out. You have the opportunity to come in and partake in those conversations too.
I do appreciate it, and oh God, thank you for that. To be honest, because I understand you know you want more money, more development, but us working class neighborhood here, we like where we live. We like the peace and quiet. I'm more afraid of bringing our like thousands more people to the area, and that doesn't seem appealing. Is where I'm coming from.
And again, I want to say, I said that we are trying to do this to attract reinvestment and not attract people. So when I say attract reinvestment is, would you not want a grocery store at walking distance from your home? You could. It's not going to be in your residential area, but if it was going to be on Route 35 where it is already permitted, then you will have a say when it is heard in front of the planning board or the zoning board.
Okay, sir, you have a question?
Yes. Zachary Napoleon, 230 Seaview Avenue. The biggest problem I have is we are talking about eyesores, right? Okay, sorry.
You got a rough crowd out here.
The biggest problem I have is we are talking as if all these houses and stuff need rehabilitation, which they probably do. This neighborhood has been around for a long time. I know personally my house is ancient. But we're talking about these homes is that they're eyesores. And personally, I think the biggest eyesore is something that's totally out of our control, which is the beach, which also attracts the most people. And it's got a sign just sitting there in the front of everything where all these people come from. Oh, it's just contaminated with lead. Giant fence. It's on the first slide. The boardwalk is destroyed. The beach erosion is horrific. I have pictures if you really want them. It's horrific. The police don't show up to this area, so things are sketchy. The roads are destroyed. They just installed the gas line and left it just mangled and gravel. The poles are destroyed and sandy. Everything looks like crap, and it's for lack of a better language, but it looks bad, but most of it's out of our control. I don't have a problem with the homes that are there. You know, it looks like an old-timey houses and everything looks all right, but most of the things that are really out of control, like the library, are out of our control. You know what I'm saying? It's a big problem. So is any of that in the redevelopment process?
So in the plan phase, right? Right now, this is existing conditions. In the plan phase, that's where we talk about what we want to see, what improvements should be made in the area. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Nicole Shapiro. I'm the Old Bridge Township Director of Community Development and Township Engineer. Two things you mentioned: utilities. Old Bridge Municipal Utilities Authority will be doing work on the roadways in Lawrence Harbor section. They will be immaculate at the end of their work. So I'm going to ask you to be patient on that one. We team up with New Jersey Natural Gas on any of the trench repairs. You might see that they walk away, and that might be for the winter months, but there has to be a settlement period before they come out and repave. And what we do is we barter with them. We ask them to repave curb to curb so that we can get the best bang for our buck. There was an email that I had sent this week to the board. I'm just trying to give you an update on your area. If there's somebody that wants to listen or not listen, I'd ask if you could please take a step out, because I want to get this information out there. There was an email I had sent to the Board of Public Utilities. Recently on Harding Road, there was a tree that came down. It was embarrassing to our police department that they couldn't even direct the utility to get up onto the pole because of the spaghetti that was in the air from the utilities that were going and servicing the homes from the poles. What happens is some of the cable companies go out, provide service. A new cable company is then asked to come in and provide service. They connect, and the old lines are not disconnected. And because our homes are closer together in our beautiful beachfront, they now create this spaghetti up in the air. So what I've asked the Board of Utilities to do is to go back to those utility companies and force them to disconnect. We have meetings out in the next couple of weeks with different cable companies. Now, we got their attention. We went to the Board of Public Utilities that governs each of these utility companies. Each one, within 24 hours, had sent me an email. How can we meet? What can we discuss? What roads are you talking? I said the entire development. Let's start with that. So everything on the east side and west side of Route 35 in those corridors, where the homes are closer together, and that's what's happening up in the air, is what we're looking at. So there is a tension in that area. Things take time, but if you have something that you want to bring to our attention, I invite you to call our office. The best extension of my department, there's 4 engineers in my office for 65,000 people in town. The best comments we get is from our public. You are an extension of the engineering department, and we look forward to your comments because you help us make our community better.
You're the eyes and ears. You got your boots on the ground.
Chairman
You see it on a daily basis.
Chairman Marucci?
Yes.
Can you reiterate the first part of your question, if you remember it?
I don't.
Okay. About the broken down, like the gas station on the corner.
No, I didn't say the gas
You
station.
said something about the dilapidated buildings, and you went towards the houses. right? That we're focusing in on houses. Hold on. As I said before, there are 4 members on the redevelopment agency that live in your community and 1 councilman. So they're here today, there's 3 of them, hearing everything, and they're also the ones that look at the area because they live there as well. The focus to redevelop and revitalization is the gas station on the corner, the buildings that are down further on Route 35 that are just literally crumbling. The building towns, is Birchwood where the turn is, down that way? Down by after Industrial Road, where those buildings are just crumbling. It's a building there, right? So those are the focuses to get investment, to even get that owner to revitalize that building. So it's not going after homes. Homes are part of that plan, but not involved in that corridor, as I would say. And that's what started this process of residents who live in your area that are on the redevelopment agency that want to see it revitalized on the corridor.
And I agree. Gotcha. But
Go ahead.
the biggest problem is the trash, like she said, the
That-
beach.
I'm only addressing that
I
particular
got it, but
portion.
you want to
I
people
understand.
to invest into the area, and the reason that those businesses and those buildings don't get filled is because the things that are in charge of the state or the township are in disarray.
I'm
They're destroyed.
I understand it. I'm going to disagree one point, is that the buildings that are crumbling and that gas station, if you want to continue seeing that, it's just going to stay the way it is. But
BP?
the plan is to take that gas station, make it a nicer. Maybe there's a Dunkin' Donuts on that corner. So that's the purpose of this, not to go after people's homes, not to go after the individual businesses that are there, that are surviving, but just to basically look at that and make that area better for all of us. I live in the town.
I agree.
Many
but
of us live in the
It
town.
needs to start at a certain point.
That's where it starts.
But
This
I'm
is where it
talking about
started.
like our homes are one thing.
Please be silent so that we can hear. We can hear each one.
The
Please be
homes
quiet.
are one thing, but like this is all about trying to revitalize the area and make it better for everybody and to attract. But you look in front of you, and there's a sign that says lead. And then we have the police station that's abandoned. Why that was ever built?
So can I just answer your question with the lead contamination? So as you all know, the waterfront was contaminated like almost 30 years back. The township has been in litigation for many, many years. For those of you who heard our mayor speak at a press conference last week, he requested Congressman Pallone to make additional funding available for the cleanup of the waterfront. So as much as you guys have been waiting for years for the cleanup, we have been trying, and we have been trying every which way to get that worked out. So it's not something that is being neglected, but it is not in our control. We have been in litigation for years now. We don't own the waterfront. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Who owns the police station?
It's a county property.
The county.
The county.
The county,
Township
and the
doesn't-
challenges are with the county, it's a county property, and, it's the county that controls all of the waterfront, the boardwalk, and all, the mayor, administration go out there all the time and try to push them to clean. They did a cleanup, I think, during the last summer, but it's the county-owned property. So, I don't know that. I don't know.
I don't know. All I know is I personally believe that our area is it could use some work, but I feel personally that is the biggest thing. We're talking about so much erosion that pier stakes from probably the 20s are now showing because of the horrid erosion. And so that's what I wanted to bring up. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, make it short. I'm shrinking. Okay, my name is Tania Espinosa, and I live in 69 Wilson Avenue.
Thank you.
And what nobody has mentioned here today is that we are all frightened because rumors. So if you could clear that up today, then we thank you with all our heart. We are hearing a lot about bringing condos, tall buildings to the area. We live there because this is like a piece of paradise. It's a little ugly if you look at every house, but in general, we live there like we don't need anything else. We have the beach, we have the best neighbors in the world, and but when we hear condo, we don't want to be Long Branch or Asbury Park. We want to stay the way we are.
And you used the key word.
So
You used the key word, rumors. Rumors was the most important
that's why
word
I
you
wanted to
used.
make it clear, because nobody's bringing that up.
Mhm.
I know you don't have anything to do with the lead.
You know the old
You know.
telephone game, right? When you say
Yeah,
one thing,
right.
by the end, it's a totally different
Yeah,
story.
yeah.
So
I'll let Vina speak.
Again, I started my presentation with saying that I have been hearing numerous rumors.
Yes.
I have heard mixed use, commercial on the ground floor with 800 condos. I have heard so many of those rumors. But like I said, the administration, myself, we have not come across any concept, any developer who has approached us to do that. There is no plan. There is no plan in place. When the plan is written, and today the comments you're making are well received. When we work on the plan, those comments will be very helpful to us. So your voice is definitely going to be heard, but when we write the redevelopment plan. But those are rumors. There is no such thing happening. There is no plan. There is no developer whom is working with the administration to create a plan or remove you from your homes.
Yeah.
That's not the intention. That is not what's happening tonight.
Thank you. To clear that up, because that is what everybody has in their mind and nobody mentioned it.
That's
By
not
the way,
happening.
Ms. Shapiro, the library is gorgeous. We love the library. Me, I live there. That's my second home. The one that is there now, that little, round thing that doesn't have any windows. So we welcome yours.
The community building, and if anybody,
If anybody here can take that other old library down, we appreciate it. That's what we were trying to say.
And-
You
and,
know,
I-
even if you want $1 from every citizen there, we will contribute whatever we can to knock it down.
if you saw the eye connection I was making with the mayor before, then
Yeah.
you know that something is going to be done, and we're going to talk to the library folks
Good,
and make sure
good.
something happens. And if anybody's interested in what we're talking about here, the Lawrence Harbor Community Building, and if anybody would like to take a sneak peek at it, there was a public event that happened last week. It's available on www.oldbridge.com/projects, and you could take a look at the rendering plans for the future Lawrence Harbor Community Building.
And the people, if I may say this, the people that are working, the girl that is taking care of the library is fantastic. She's
Fantastic.
doing a fantastic job. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Chairman Marucci, I'd like to address that. So we do have some properties in that area, which is the Amboy Bank, which is closed down as well. Now, it's a private property, and it can be sold. My question to the community is, and this isn't a plan, isn't just a thought, a question. If someone was to invest in that Amboy Bank property and put up a 3-story building with condos that can bring in, well, I'm just asking the question, and we'll hear it, and this is good for any development plan. So it either circumvents that being put into a plan, because the developer might come and say, I want to do that. But here's my question. If a developer came and Amboy Bank sold that to them, and they put up a 3-story condo buildings that are going to sell for $500,000 because of the $500,000 view you all have, right? That investment then rolls off onto the next pieces of property and the community. So the question is that something that you would want, or you would say, no, that's not going to happen in our community?
They're going to start throwing.
It's understandable. It's a question.
They're going to start throwing rotten tomatoes.
That's it. That's your question. It was just, so there you go. So that helps. So I'm circumventing, I'm helping with the plan that's going to take place.
Okay, sir?
Okay, my name is Brian Selhofer, 620 Greenwood Ave.
There you go. Now
Right
you're
the
wrecked.
first time. Okay, what I noticed in the study that wasn't mentioned, the parking area down by the beach, when that goes into a plan, I know the plan isn't in motion yet, but is the amount of parking going to stay the same, or is that going to get limited to less than that's already existing? Are we still going to have full access to our beach and park?
It definitely will not lessen. But again, I haven't even started the plan. It's not in picture. But the idea throughout the township, it's not just the harbor, but the intention is never to reduce parking and create a shortfall. We don't want that. So that will not happen.
Okay, because we already have a little bit of a parking issue there.
Yes, we are
sometimes on
fully
the
aware of
weekends.
that.
Now, there is nothing from the county about the other OBPD coming down or anything with that building, correct? No?
No.
Okay.
The police building is in operation. I heard.
The police
I thought there was
substation?
nobody in, yeah, the one over
No,
by.
they are. They are in there.
They are.
They
'Cause
are
I've never seen anybody there. Never.
I
I walk my dog down there all the time, that's how I
They
know.
are. They definitely are in there though.
Sergeant Maniconis operates out of there with traffic safety operations.
So they're
and
in
he's
there daily?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, he comes to my office on probably 2 or 3 times, 4 times, so we can coordinate on stuff, but he does operate out of that building, yes.
Okay, well, all my other questions were hit on, so thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Glenn D'Antuno, 65 Ravine Avenue in Lawrence Harbor. All right. Also, I am the chairman of the redevelopment agency. Okay, so I want to give a little background on what's going on here. A little louder? Okay, so a couple of years ago, when our commission has approached VINA to create the study, it was actually originally a lot larger. It originally went from the bridge all the way to 7-Eleven. When we discussed it, it was just too much to take in one shot. So this is the first piece of the puzzle, okay? And the reason why we chose the center is because really this is the center of town. It's not just the center of Old Bridge, it's the center of Lawrence Harbor. We have parades there. We have a lot of stuff going for us. We know that the houses are older. We know that there's buildings that are in trouble. There's, a gas station down by the bridge that still has tanks in the ground that shouldn't have it. There's a lot of pieces to the puzzle. You hear it tonight here with the public saying, hey, there's problems. Well, these studies help kind of gather these thoughts of you, the public, of what the problems are. So then, as a government entity, we can see it and say, okay, how can I approach this to New Jersey and say, hey, we need money, we need help here. That's what this is about. That's what this study is about. It's not about taking away anybody's house or improving, like, developers. So one of the things that came across when we stated this study, and it was one of the first things I said, is there absolutely will be no condemnation, okay? Nobody's house is going to be taken, period. I will not allow a developer to come in and ask for that, okay? That is pretty much across the board even. It's something that I feel this is a great first step, and with you, the public, all being out here saying, hey, we have all these problems with drugs, and the library's closed, the rec center is going to be redone great. We have a Superfund site that the EPA's been just kind of strolling their feet on, that we wish it would be done quicker. All this stuff, if we get it into this study and, it'll help us create our case for us as Old Bridge and Lawrence Harbor to present it to the state and say, hey, we need a little more help. Yes, there might be some developers that want to come in and maybe hit the vacant lot that's behind Dunkin' Donuts, or want to redevelop the area by Flodar, or want to do something by the gas station and remediate the gas station down by Cookies, okay? There's things that need to get done. This is a way to create tools for our area to be able to get these things done. Because without them, you're not going to have somebody come in and go, oh, I want to spend $1 million to remove gas tanks, put something there. All right? And the great thing is, when it's in a redevelopment area, if they want to come to the redevelopment agency for a pilot, they have to come with the idea to us, and then to them, and then to the council like twice, before it even goes on to a shovel in the ground. It's actually more steps when it's in redevelopment for a developer to come in, because they want something out of it also. So this is something, I know has been very divisive in the public, but I really hope that you guys are understanding better where the thinking was behind this. And I hope, as for the planning board, you guys vote in favor for this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn.
Hello, my name is Todd Kessler. I live at 6A Seaglade Circle in Cliffwood Beach. I am also the owner of the large vacant property that previous speaker was just addressing behind the Dunkin' Donuts. We've owned the property for quite some time. Obviously, it is underutilized. It has been underutilized for decades. I think people call it the Burluz lot still. I think Burluz burnt down in the 1960s. So it certainly is something that could benefit from being in a redevelopment area. We certainly, look forward to participating if this were to go forward, to work on improvements to match what the town's vision is, to try and improve the Lawrence Harbor area. I live in Cliffwood Beach. My business on a daily is in the area, and, we look forward to participating to, assist in this if it goes forward. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
I'm a short guy though, so. Right? That's good. There you go. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chairman and the board of the committee. My name is Rajesh Desai. I own the pharmacy there and the little shopping center we talked about. I think I want to integrate all this, my friends and family of Lawrence Harbor. I've been there for 36 years with that business, so I think I know most of them. And I think what we heard from Veena, I think is a wonderful job. Like what we do, we change our shirts after 1 year or 2 years, we change our shoes and when they get bad. So the same way we have to revitalize. It's a good project, but like the gentleman said, I think we need to clean what is there first before we go forward. But yes, revitalization is required. If you want to bring everybody in, which is, I'm all for it, and I'm sure everybody's all for it, as long as it's done systematically and right, which I'm sure you guys do. That's what you do every day in and day out. So, but to bring it in, see if we can do a little more work on the beach so people travel. So that's the business succeeds also, because there's more crowd coming in because the area is cleaned. Without it, there's a big sign says the lead contamination, like the gentleman said, which is a good thing. But yes, at the end of the day, yes, it needs to be redone. We have to vitalize a little bit, make it up and up. So I think you guys are doing a wonderful job. And I'm sure nobody's taking our houses, nobody's taking our stores, nobody's taking anything. It's all staying there. So I just came out to tell you, all my people here, calm down. Nobody's touching you. Nobody's doing anything until it's done. 3, 4, 5 meetings. So, but I think we shouldn't stop them from doing, because I think it's for our benefit, for all of us who we are there. So, that's it. That's what I was here to say. Thank you.
So if you want the news, stop in the pharmacy, he'll give you the updates.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you, Raj.
Some short people in this crowd. Hello, my name's Tom Farrer. I live in 44 Lantana Way. And I think my biggest concern about any of this is the amount of trash that commercial development brings to the area and the surrounding homes. If you look behind anything like the liquor store or any the public library and places around there, there isn't enough consideration about the trash that happens. So the trashing area, I think, needs to be addressed for a lot of it, for public receptacles and things like that, that have to make sure that the trash is collected. You make allowances for that in the park zone and things like that. But to consider putting in commercial development, like a strip mall or something like that, I think you need to consider that trash that gets collected with that. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you for your.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name's Chase Christensen, 205 Brookside Avenue. I just want to share some of my thoughts from reading online, from reading that development plan, and listen to everyone speak tonight, all my neighbors and other business owners and everyone that contribute to our community for so long. So the first question is, I know there's no plans for eminent domain, no buildings being condemned.
Get a little closer to the mic, please,
Sure.
sir. Thank
I
you.
know there's no plans for eminent domain or anything like that. That would have to be stated, like you mentioned already. But the question that comes to my mind is, when a development plan is proposed, and say it involves multiple properties, again, it's just a proposal, nothing's set in stone yet, does that start a time or a new process in which now the board can propose that this development plan is a good idea? We're going to state that eminent domain might be possible if we can't come. So it's closed at this point. Nothing in this EOD zone could ever be forced by eminent domain.
That is correct.
Okay. So moving on from there, the redevelopment itself. Again, what Zachary mentioned, and what Raj mentioned too, is we have a Superfund site in the neighborhood. Again, this isn't your control, it's environmental protection. However, there needs to be more pressure on this. Again, National Lead and the state of New Jersey have been arguing over a budget. One agreed to 50 million, the other agreed to, I think it's like 80 million. And this keeps getting delayed. As we all know, in recent years, the price of everything's going up. We're fighting over millions of dollars, but now the budget probably to do an $80 million cleanup is probably $150 million. So the moral of this is redeveloping this zone is like putting lipstick on a pig. There's something huge and rotten sitting along the entire coast of our neighborhood. And that's going to be that's what's really a cancer to the community in terms of destroying value, economic value. Who wants to come to a beach that you can't walk through? You're going to let your kids play in lead? Parts that are 200,000 parts per million, 20% lead by volume. And I think there's more important things to redevelopment than cracked sidewalks or asphalt, or even some of the lands. One of the draws on it is impervious to rain. So, like, I guess the BP, the abandoned gas station, of course, that's key concerns when it comes to that, impervious to rain. But then we're looking about potentially redeveloping the vacant lot or other areas, which of course that's going to be new construct. So that's going to be another added issue to it. Like the issue is going through building by building on here, I see a lot of things that are used to qualify each property under EOD, like gravel driveways. It seems to be a knock at some point. But again, that counteracts the impervious surfaces. I don't know if this is just to get these properties on, but I mean, when you look at the plan itself, it's kind of insulting to the town. Whether it says that certain buildings are built in 1915 and they need to be updated or have an inefficient layout, I feel like this plan is more of a poor critique of the town instead of actually looking at the core of the problems. What's going on now is we're putting the cart before the horse. We got to get to the core, build a foundation, get the beach cleaned up, drive economic redevelopment by having a jewel along the coast that people come in, it'll raise property values. We want to make people invest in the community without the need for government to step in areas that aren't needed, as in personal properties. And that's just what I have to say on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Joe Cervallo. I don't live in Cliffwood Beach anymore, but I own the property that everybody's talking about, the Superfund site here. The gas station garage is not a gas station. The tanks have been out. The DEP has been on my back and controlling my life for 35 years at that location. 35 years, okay? The day I got the registered letter about this meeting here, I also got what they think is so good to me, a plan that I had a remedial action permit was granted to me, which means I can sell the property as long as I follow their new plans. The new plan is a 29-year plan for the cleanup, the monitoring of that property. How am I going to sell this property? I don't have a dime left in my pocket to do anything to fix that property up. I can't sell it. Nobody wants it. It looks like a junkyard, which it is. You don't have to tell me that, sir. I know it is. I lived it for 35 years, and I'm stuck. So, like you were talking about, maybe you can get 5 years of taxes exempt. That's $50,000. I can't do nothing with that. I can't do anything with the property. So if you want the property, buy it from me. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Carol Seeger. I live at 22 Roosevelt Avenue, right next to Dunkin' Donuts. Okay, my concern is with this redevelopment, you're talking about bringing sidewalks in. Where are you going to put the sidewalks? Basically, if you put sidewalks in, you have to put it in all throughout the harbor. And there's no way that you can, because most of these streets are either one-way, two-way, two cars can't fit down them. And then you want to bring in maybe businesses that you want to build along 35. Do you take in consideration of the traffic? Okay, now, that's early in the morning, that's like a speedway. That's a racetrack. You know, from the light to all the way down to Morgan, that's a raceway. They speed down, you can hear the cars just speeding down there. Then you have, in the summertime, you have the people coming to the beach. Then you have the bridge opening up every hour on the hour, backing traffic up. Then when there's an accident on the parkway, you have everybody coming off of 120, coming down, going around to get onto 35. So did you ever look at what traffic it's going to bring?
That really happens again in the redevelopment plan stage. This is just a study. I keep
But
repeating.
I'm just bringing it to your attention as to
Yes,
but
and
you know, like I live down there and I hear the traffic.
I please
see the
expect
accidents, just-
people to be respectful. Let me answer. Let me
Okay, go
hear. Please be respectful. Yes, go ahead.
But see, Monday, there was an accident right there on the corner going south on the parkway when 3 cars came. How it happened, I don't know. But when you're going south, they were facing this way. You know, so, you know, it's constantly that corner right there. How many people have gotten killed at that corner, that intersection?
We understand, and that is what the study helps, because eventually when a plan is written, we do look at the traffic concerns, we look at the circulation plan and try to come up with solutions that can alleviate those problems. So I'm glad you're speaking. I thank you for bringing it to our attention, but it's something that is not being ignored.
Okay, thank you.
Does this go any higher? No, okay. Sorry, thank you. Okay. We go in height order next time. Teresa Burns, 347 Miller Ave. I do have some questions, and I just wanted to clear up some items. I was previously chair of the community advisory group that works with the Superfund site. I'm no longer a member of the CAG, but it is my understanding that Old Bridge does own that property, but we rent it to the county. So I believe someone was saying that it was owned by the county, but
It's the opposite. The Middlesex County owns it, and they lease it to us for $1.
Okay, so it's the opposite. Okay, thank you for clarifying. So then my questions come along with the parcels that were to, they're lots that the fire department use. So they're up for redevelopment. I was wondering what happens with those properties if they are up for redevelopment because the fire department doesn't have any on-site parking.
So just like the church, they continue to remain the way they are unless they decide to redevelop their site or move elsewhere or buy additional lots from the neighbors to create parking. But otherwise, they remain as they are.
So if you could just repeat that part where you said move the fire department, if they have plans to move?
No,
I just...
No, it just, you said that there is no parking, and the study actually points that out, that they do not have any parking. So it is completely up to the fire department if they want to purchase a neighboring property to create more parking or not, or to redevelop their site. But actually, the study doesn't really force them to do anything. They still remain at the location as they are.
Who owns that property then, the parking lots? The two parcels where the parking is currently?
The central, that's township owned parcels.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is John Augustowitz.
Can you step closer to the mic, please?
I live at 235 Shoreland Circle, John Augustowitz, and the thing that caught my ear was I know the majority of people don't want major change here, and I'm along with that. I like making things a little better, and this is only a study, it's baby steps. But when I heard the part that said it's making it easier for an investor to do something without a variance, investors have...
No.
Let me finish. Investors have deep pockets. They don't care about interest rates. So that sounds like baby steps in the wrong direction for me.
The investor could be you yourself, the homeowner. What I said
I didn't
is
hear homeowners, I heard investors.
so it helps you reinvest in your property. I didn't say investors. I said it helps you reinvest. I didn't.
So to clarify.
Right.
So if you have a property on Route 35 that's just deteriorating.
Right.
That allows investors to come and say, I'd like to invest this property. Maybe put up a new car garage or whatever it might be. No, it depends on the zone. So EDO zone is Economic Development and Opportunity Zone. If they were to come, exactly to your question, and wanted to do condos, they would need a variance, and they would have to come in front of the boards, and the community would come out and say, we don't want that. But they'd have to go for variances on that particular parcel. So to clarify again, when we're talking about homes that might be in the redevelopment area, there's no, again, condemnation. It's basically looking at people to come and invest in the community. As our chairman of the redevelopment agency said, and possibly our councilman might say right behind you, not that I'm going to put any words in his mouth, but it's just to take, I look at, as the economic development officer, I look at Route 35. How could we take Route 35 and make it more beautiful? Make it conducive as you ride into Aberdeen or Cliffwood where the new LA Fitness is. Not something that big. I'm just saying investment. So somebody would come and say, I would like to purchase that parcel that's not looking well. In the redevelopment zone, he then can apply for a pilot program, which is the payment in lieu of taxes. This has been done across the town. This is not the first time this is happening. And one of the reasons why we do this, and then I'll get a little bit deeper, if you look at the areas behind the Lowe's, Waterworks Road, which many of you are familiar with, the reason why a redevelopment zone and the redevelopment agency looked at it, because our job in the redevelopment agency as the executive director is to look at areas around the town and say, you know what, this area can be beautified, if that's even a word, but it can be enhanced. So what happened in that area, we took the entire area, which, just so understand, maybe this will help, took the entire area, Waterworks Road, all the way down to Cheesequake Boulevard, all that area, made it a redevelopment zone. And what happened, not that this is going to happen in Lawrence Harbor, is that we got an investor to come in and build a warehouse back there. Now, just today just today at the redevelopment agency, one of the gentlemen who owns a property there, who has dump trucks parked all over the place, came in today to improve his property, to put up a building, okay, so he can get involved in the redevelopment plan. He didn't have to. It did not affect him at all, but he said he saw to take advantage of it. So on a smaller scale, that's what we're looking at in your area, just to take that particular corridor and the areas of the intersection, as Vina mentioned a couple of times, as Nicole mentioned, is to take that area. It has really nothing to do with any homes, all right? They're not going to say, well, your home is in the area, we're going to take that. No, it's to take the area, take the buildings that are not looking well, and try to help them either invest in it or get an investor. We're not talking about, somebody's going to come in and build condos. I don't think they're building condos on Route 35. In the past, I think they tried, but it's not going to happen. I hope that clarifies why. It's not specific to your area. The redevelopment agency looks at all areas around the town. Like even the Kohl's Shopping Center is looked at to say, why aren't there any stores? Why aren't we renting that? Take that area, make an investment where somebody would come in and build stores or something like that. So I hope that clarifies it a bit, and you understand. From the development plan perspective, they look at the whole area. Economic development, I look at the corridor to say, how do we make it better?
And sir, if I may, Steve, if I may.
Yes.
If you own a piece of residential property, you couldn't build a commercial property on that residential without major variances going in front of all the boards and getting everything straightened out. Same thing goes in reverse. If there's a commercial piece of property along that corridor, a developer can't come in and build condos.
Okay, it just bothered me the way I heard if a person's selling, they could make it easy for an investor. Yeah.
I guess the way I was explaining it, there was an elderly lady who had a home on 516. She wanted to sell her property, but the area was designated as residential. So right next to her were, for argument's sake, trucking companies. Next to it was a sign company. I'm just using for instance. So now she has somebody that wants to come and purchase her property to put a little mall up or a store or something like that. She's in a residential zone. When the EDO came into play, she was able to sell that property. She couldn't sell it because she was stuck in the residential portion of a main highway. So my focus is on the main highways. The development plan goes over the whole thing and says, okay, what areas, but it's not going after homes. It's just saying that the homes, if they're in this area, okay, can opt in for the program, but they don't have to do anything at all. Nothing. I hope that helps.
All right, thank you.
I hope it.
Thank you, sir. Okay, anyone else from the public?
Okay, we got.
We had somebody coming just ahead of
I
you.
think was waiting in line.
I'll be quick. Guys, my name is Kevin Garcia. I'm the councilman for Ward 1. I thank you for bringing this to everybody's attention. I thank you guys for showing up tonight to voice your opinion. Just like Councilman Palmer said, we are not here to take your homes. We are here to fight basically for whatever you guys want. We're here for you guys. I know we get a lot of comments on Facebook, this and that. If anybody needs to get a hold of me, if they want to know the facts, kgarcia@oldbridge.com. I don't go on Facebook. That's how rumors start.
Stay off Facebook.
Stay off Facebook. kgarcia@oldbridge.com. You will get the facts. You will get them immediately, within minutes. As soon as I get it, I respond. So please, contact me, kgarcia@oldbridge.com. It's quite that simple. Stay off Facebook. I am not going on Facebook. I have a lot of friends on Facebook. I hear all the comments. I don't go on Facebook. I don't have time for the petty stuff. Need to get a hold of me, kgarcia@oldbridge.com. That's all. And I think this redevelopment thing is a great thing. If anybody has any town has a redevelopment coming into their community, you should accept it. It's a great thing. It only benefits us. You guys have the best view in all of Old Bridge. That water is the best. I mean,
I don't want to share.
I know. Listen, I know it's not clean now. I get it's not. I get all that. But that's out of our hands. We don't control the water. That's the EPA. That's another fight. The county's another fight. We only deal with Old Bridge. As a matter, I got a quick story today. They called me, they wanted the beach, not the beach, they wanted the sand cleaned up from the boardwalk. Now, I don't know who it was, she called the county. The county said that's Old Bridge's responsibility. I said, okay. I got the email, who did I contact? Casey. Casey went down, he contacted the county, and they cleaned that beach, the boardwalk, within hours. It's the county is the responsibility, the boardwalk is the county. Everything from the boardwalk to the water is the county. Everything to the left of the boardwalk is Old Bridge. So please, call me. I'm here for you guys. You guys have the best view of water in all of Old Bridge. That's a beautiful view. You guys should utilize. I know it's not clean. I get all that. But that's out of our hands. We can't do anything with the water. Nothing. And Teresa will tell you, we go to the CAG meetings. I go to the CAG meetings. We try. But the EPA, I don't know. I mean, this is way before me, way before Merwin. This is going on probably 15 years now, if not longer.
Excuse me, Kevin, can you clarify one thing?
Yes.
I heard something last week about with the community center getting the funding that it got.
Yes.
The community center is supposed to be a library, but I guess community center.
Well, it's mostly a community
But
center.
with the funding coming into that, they gave the green light to go ahead and start that cleanup.
You can't.
Is that a rumor?
I'm not loud enough?
It's not a town meeting.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I thought I was
You
loud
took
enough.
over. This is your audience.
I apologize, guys. I know I'm not here for that. I apologize. It's probably a council thing.
Yeah.
They've got to record this.
We have some funding for the library, recreation center, community center, whatever you want to call it. We have some funding for that. But
Can we stay on task?
I'm sorry.
And if you guys want to have conversations out in the parking lot, that's
I
cool. But let's
apologize.
kind of stay on task.
But the main reason why I'm here is I want to introduce myself. I know most of you. I don't know all of you, of course. kgarcia@oldbridge.com. I will respond immediately to your questions. Don't bash me on Facebook because I don't care because I'm not getting Facebook anyway. I don't entertain Facebook. To
All right,
me,
come on, we got to keep
Okay,
this
I'm
on
sorry.
task. All right, I'm going to shut your mic off in a minute.
I'm sorry. Thank you,
you,
guys.
Councilman.
I
Thank you,
apologize.
Kevin.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Oh, somebody's waiting?
Yeah, somebody else wanted to get up in the
Come on
public.
in. Yeah, I'll wait.
Tom Capilla, 274 Prospect Avenue. I've been up here with some of you folks before. I'm a little confused on the clarity of the previous gentleman who asked the question. And this gentleman had made a statement earlier in the discussions. I'm a little confused about the planning and when someone can sell their property, but we're worrying about, we're not taking your house. Okay, we get it, we're not taking your house. Okay, the EPA, the shoreline. But what I'm getting confused about is the clarity of what particular properties could replace those homes. If a developer came in and said, okay, we're right next to Rogers Strip Mall. I want to buy these 3 houses. I want to put in a Chick-fil-A. Or they come next to where Cookies is. I want to put in a Burger King. Are we saying, and we're not going to build condos, but are we saying we could turn this strip into all commercial work, all commercial buildings, because we decide that we are going to approve this, and before you know it, I have a car wash, I have a Chick-fil-A, and I'm smelling chicken and pickles the whole time? Is that what we're saying here? Is that what we're saying?
So,
Because nobody's going to, and let me just, and
Go ahead.
before that, I wanted to say one more comment, and then.
no, go ahead.
Is if you actually took time to go around the community, I think a lot of you folks would agree with me, people are gobbling up these houses. This community is cleaning itself up. They are gobbling these houses up. They're fixing them up. Well, they're working on it. Some streets still need a little help. And I think that property management should play a larger role in this township to making sure that some people, property is not allowed to look to shuttle. Because I have put money into my home, and her and I have discussed, I don't want to put too much into my home because I don't know what's going to happen here. And again, I'll let you respond to, are we going to turn this into commercial strip row where we got 1 million people throwing Burger King bags out their windows and Burger King cups?
I'm
That's
going to
my
answer
concern.
it. Don't everybody go crazy, okay? Here's the thing.
Steve, I think that's really a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So again, we are not changing anything. So unless you.
You said, you
No, no, I'm.
did say
No, can I
let me
answer?
respond. Let me
Steve,
respond.
Steve,
that
let me speak.
they could present a plan, and if you all decide to approve it,
We do not decide anything. It's you as the homeowner who decides. The development of your property is only in your hand
but
and
that's my
not.
point, is if three
Let
people.
Vina finish. She'll answer your question.
Okay,
So
I
it
apologize.
is completely in your hand. So the hypothetical situation that you just explained to me, you're next to a strip mall and there are 3 homes and a developer reaches out to you. It is completely in your hands to say no because you want to remain in that area. So nobody is going to force you, especially the township is not involved. The township does not come and take your property.
I know that, we're
Right.
past that, we're past
Right.
that, we're past the.
The answer
But
to the
again,
question.
so the answer is yes, that 3 people in that community on 35, and if I live 2 blocks over, could sell me out and put a Burger King up under this plan, or put in a Chick-fil-A, they're allowed to, if they make that, I don't get to make that decision for them whether they sell their property. They get to make that decision. But if they all say, yeah, go ahead. Go
Okay,
ahead,
now,
put a car wash.
is this
I don't-
hypothetically a residential property? Is this hypothetically a residential?
residential.
You can't put a commercial site on a residential
That's
property.
what I'm asking, because
You
you
cannot.
had previously
the
said
EDO
that
zone.
you could sell your property with no
In the-
fear of what.
In the
that was-
EDO zone, the ones that are within the EDO zone,
3DO.
in the EDO.
Okay, so that
If you're
could
in
not
a
happen.
residential- Not in a straight residential zone, no.
Okay.
No, you are in a residential zone, you will remain in the residential zone.
Correct,
what-
that's not
that's-
gonna change.
And again, please, everybody, take in mind that this community is trying to clean itself up. And you heard everyone agree, it absolutely is.
And-
I see a lot of
and we
pride.
completely-
A lot of pride in this
So I don't think we need this much help. Thank you for your time, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Make it quick. Is that a Chick-fil-A cup? Oh,
No, Dunkin' Donuts, sorry. So it's fine, I'm loud. Sorry, thanks. So I just wanted to touch on something that Councilman Garcia had said, that, if somebody comes in that you really want to embrace it, and I look at things like Keyport and I'm like, yes, I do want that kind of redevelopment. And then I go down Main Street in Woodbridge and I say, I do not want that kind of redevelopment. So I think that we as a community are very mindful about what we want. And it's not a lot of homes, it's not a lot of change. We like that small beach town feel. So that's it, thank you.
The community will have, just to address that comment, the community will have a chance to participate in the planning process. You will be notified when a plan is in working or is presented to the council. If there is an application that is filed in front of the planning board or the zoning board, you will be notified based on municipal land use law. So you will have a chance to speak.
Any what?
I mean, there's no.
Well, no, as the attorney, I'll say an attorney answer. A board can't guarantee anything. I mean, it could be, without the redevelopment plan, a developer could come in, make offers that, you can't refuse, and decide to make an application before the zoning board to get a use variance to build we can't guarantee anything, but we can say that that's not the intention of this body, and that's not the intention that we understand the process of this redevelopment.
Yeah, Mr. Sordillo makes a good point that whether the redevelopment plan is in place or not, the same thing, there is no guarantee on either.
And just to add on to that, the current zoning does not permit it. So right now, it's not allowed. Any developer could go and make an application to the zoning board, but right now, the zoning does not allow it. The master plan does not support it.
And I sense that you would all come out against it. Yes.
Yeah, you have to.
If you want to go back and put it into say, build commercial, you still have to go back now to change, you have to go back and change it to commercial, right?
You have to go in for variances, yes.
To change it
yes.
back,
And that's
right?
your opportunity as the residents to come out, the public comes out, and
So I think
you show your support
I think
against.
the question is that if it was rezoned to residential
First it was commercial
And
rezoned
then
to
it was,
reg-
if it was, the question is, if it's rezoned to residential and then they want to go back to commercial, that has to now then be rezoned back to a commercial. You can't put you can't put commercial on a residential.
right.
Correct.
Okay, that's all I
Yes,
wanna know.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Dean, can I say something?
Yes. I've been quiet all night.
Yeah, I haven't said anything. I'm listening to these great people here, and I'm so happy that all of you came out and have an opinion. But this board, this council, this township doesn't want to do anything to hurt anyone. Anything that they try to propose is only for the good of your homes and your lives. We're only trying to make things better, and this is just a plan. As Vina has said several times, nothing is written yet. It's a study. All right?
There is no plan.
It's no plan. It's just a study. I'm sorry. All right? It's just embrace it. Embrace it. And you always have the opportunity to come out to these meetings and voice your opinion. Thank you.
Yes, Mayor.
Mayor. Thank you, Planning Board. Residents, thank you for coming out tonight. I'm going to be here briefly, I promise you. I know it's late. But I just want to answer a few questions that were raised, some issues that were raised tonight. And I'll try to go in order. First is the fence and the signs, the lead. We've been working on that for years now, since I became mayor, with the EPA, National Lead. It is a Superfund site, we all know that. And according to the EPA and the federal government, our Superfund site is moving at lightning speed. Most of these Superfund sites go on for 25, 35 years, 40 years before they are addressed. My conversations with Congressman Pallone last Thursday, in fact, I started off the press conference with what the heck's going on the beach, Congressman. And he's told me that this may be the year. The final design stages are getting ready to be completed now, and the cleanup could start in Lawrence Harbor on the beaches this year. So that is great news. And as a gentleman over there said, we're putting the cart before the horse. Exactly. We can't ask for people to invest in an area that has fences and contamination signs, but they should move together so we save some time. The second issue is the condition of the beaches. We talked about beach replenishment. Anyone who understands that concept knows that that is not done by a municipality. All along the waterfront, along the shorelines, the Army Corps of Engineers talks about beach replenishment. Now, those projects are hundreds of millions of dollars. And currently, Nicole, we are working with the Army Corps of Engineers. In fact, we just made them include Old Bridge into their study into the Raritan Bay. Now, can I tell you that there's going to be beach replenishment here in Old Bridge? I can't make that statement, but they are at least looking at it. A beach replenishment that will be helped is up by the inlet, the Cheesequake Creek. That jetty, the southern side of that jetty, is going to be replaced. In fact, last year, Congressman Pallone allocated $33 million to that jetty. That jetty is made up also of contaminated material. That material will be removed and a new jetty installed. The reason for the beach erosion north of the police station, the substation, is due to that jetty. The sand sifts right through it, and it's clogging up the inlet, and then it goes up into Sayreville, and that's why so many dredging projects have taken place. So once they replace that jetty, which is in the next 3-4 years, that should stabilize the beach north of the police station, where we see that severe erosion taking place. Now, the police station, I'll work my way down. The police station itself is occupied. Traffic and safety has moved their operations. You might go there during the day, they're not there, but they operate out of that building. After Memorial Day, that building becomes even more utilized. As you know, we put a beach patrol operates out of that building and services the beach area, up and down all the way into Cliffwood Beach. The areas behind the fence that need to be cleaned up, and I looked at them the other day, that needs to be performed by the federal government. And they usually do that once a year, right before Memorial Day. They'll come in there and they'll make those beaches behind the fences, they'll look great. They'll remove all the garbage, they'll remove all the large debris. The beaches that we have access to, we start cleaning them up now. In fact, as I say, Casey started to move some sand today. We go on those beaches a number of times each year, starting right before Memorial Day and continue on up into Labor Day to clean those beaches. The amount of debris that washes up on our shores is a lot. So at any time we do go on those beaches, they look very nice for a day or two. But every tide cycle, more and more plastic, more and more bottles get washed up on shore. We're on it. If you have an area in Lawrence Harbor that you think needs to be cleaned up, call us. We'll send the clean teams there on a Saturday. We're down in some ravines cleaning stuff. We don't dump the stuff there. Residents dump the garbage. I don't know when we've become a throwaway society. I don't know why. But we'll stay on top of it. If you let us know the areas that you want us to address, we'll be there. The library, sir, you're 100% right. That building's going to come down. If anyone knows the history, just when COVID struck, we had an incident. The wall gave way. The easterly wall gave way. The building is uninhabitable, and the cost to repair it was more than the building was worth. So Tuesday night's council meeting, we are going to be awarding or allocating $6 million. We're starting this process to a brand new state-of-the-art facility where our existing community center exists. That was built in the 70s, I believe, by the vocational school. That's how long ago the building was built. So you're going to have a gem to start this off, down by the water, 2-story building, glass, a place where we could get together and look out over the water and see, what's going on across the best views from the north and from the south. The library, we're coming down. This plan, I'm sorry, I used the wrong word, plan, the study that we're talking about, I just want you to think about a few words, and I'll be careful what I choose. It's about property values. We want your property values to go up. Opportunity. Everybody likes opportunity in life, right? Opportunity to do something with my property. And potential. If anyone can drive on 35 or through the neighborhood and think that that area has met its full potential, I would question that thinking. Something can happen to make it better, to make all your quality of life better for everyone in that area. The roads that were dug up by utility companies, we didn't do that. We couldn't stop them. But we will promise you that they will be paved. They will be brand new when they're done. That should be this year, right? So what else? Did I miss anything? That's all I ask you as far as the study is concerned. Keep an open mind. Go home, think about it. Think about your property, what you might be able to do with it, or how you can see improve your own property. And if you don't want to do anything and leave it the way it is, fine. Everyone is fine with that. Until maybe someday, 10 years, 15, 20 years from now, when you do go to sell that property, it's going to be worth a lot more money because it's in that area where investments are being made by you. It's your neighborhood, and we want it to be your neighborhood. Yes, ma'am.
Can we get somebody to put up signs, like no littering and for, pick up your dog's poop?
Yeah, we have a problem with that.
Yes, a lot.
Again, it's
There's people that come here, let their dogs poop on the boardwalk, they let them poop on the side.
yes. It's everywhere. Dog poop.
We have people that
$1,000 signs like, you don't clip it after your dog, we're gonna start charging you. And really,
But
start ticketing people.
why did they take the dog bags? that
Ma'am,
were-
can you speak into the mic, please?
Why did they take the dog bags off of down on the beach and put them up on the street? So we have people that come there and walk their dogs, and they let them poop. And you can see it all along. I walk that beach every morning. I'm there sometimes 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. People bring their dogs, they drive there, they bring their dogs there. They let them poop on the boardwalk, they let them poop,
It's
So
hard to fix people. It's hard to correct
it's
that
hard.
behavior. But what we can do is put additional dog poop stations with receptacles and bags. We can put more in. There's no reason we
Not even
can't.
that, even put maybe some signs on there saying, please pick up.
If you don't know by
lines."
now that you shouldn't let your dog poop on somebody else's property, you think a sign is going to stop them? Maybe a punch in the nose or something, or a kick in the coolie. But no,
It should be, signs may help, because, I don't see any signs where saying no littering, you'll get a fine for littering, you'll get a fine for, dog feces on here.
We've made notes. We'll put them up. Again, we'll have to get permission from the county to put them up.
Well, that's why I'm asking you.
Yes.
For the fishermen that don't clean up their trash?
We had a big problem with that, yes.
I mean, I
Yes.
always said I love my area. I just got the house almost 2 years
gotta get up and say this.
Okay,
Just hear the people, I'm sorry.
I think we're a little off target.
yeah, we got it, we're approaching our 10:30 mark
Yes.
here, so we have to kind of.
I'll take one more question.
Wrapping this up a little.
And I appreciate your being here tonight. Thank you.
Hi, Mayor Henry. As we've previously discussed about the signs down at the front, and we can put up signs saying one way, not 5 ways, where by the bank is, people cut through that parking lot and they come, you're supposed to go this way, they're coming this way. Just as other people have said, I'm at the stoplight and I have a big U-Haul truck coming at me with a boat attached to the back of it, coming the wrong way. Something has to be done with
It's an
signage.
outdated intersection.
We need some
It's
signage.
it's
until
probably from the
rehabilitation
20s.
comes in.
It's from the 20s.
Somebody's going to get killed over there.
And this gives us the opportunity, as I said, the word opportunity, to address major projects like that. Realigning that intersection is millions,
Temporary-
tens.
Something we can do temporarily until this is all redesigned.
I mean,
because
signs,
gotta
we can
get
put
rid of
signs
that.
up.
Because they're one-way signs, and most of this is from people from out of town coming in.
We get the blinking signs. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Planning Board, thank you for being here. I know you've put a lot of work in last year and this year.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service. Appreciate it.
Mayor.
Okay, so I am now closing the public portion. Fine. Everybody's moaning and groaning at me. They hate me tonight.
Welcome.
Are we letting everybody go and then we still, or do you want to?
Mr. Chairman, if I can just kind of refocus the board as to what its charge is this evening. We've heard this was very good public input, and it will help, our planning department and Vina to work on a redevelopment plan if we get to that point. But right now, what's before this board is a determination of whether or not the properties that are identified in the study meet the requirements or criteria to be deemed areas of redevelopment and rehabilitation. So based on the presentation made by Ms. Savant, the board would need to now place a vote whether it's going to recommend and remember, this is the board makes a recommendation. Makes a recommendation as to whether or not makes a vote to recommend the governing body to make the actual final determination as to whether or not these subject properties meet the criteria for redevelopment and rehabilitation. So what would need to be happening now would be a vote of this body, of this board, as to whether or not it recommends that decision be made with regard to the Route 35 intersection area need to redevelopment and rehabilitation study.
And that is just, for the board's edification, that is just number 2 under 6. It's sub number 2 under 6 public hearing. So we're not voting on number 1 as of yet. That presentation still has to be made.
Yes.
Okay. So with that summation from Mr. Sordillo, can I ask for a motion to vote?
I'll make a motion.
By Mr. Petty. And a second?
I'll second.
By Mr. Lauer.
Ms. Cannon?
Yeah, I would just like to say that I think this was very helpful to me as been in the town a long time, also in a different area. And but I think as a board, just to hear your input, and I think we've gotten some really good input. I think that'll be helpful not only for the redevelopment plan, but just to generally in the area. And a lot of the things that they mentioned about bugging them about the contamination and the cleanup or lack of cleanup and so forth, I think has been, a source of frustration and anger with all of us that have lived in the community for a long time. So, but I think this is a good start. And I think that, you'll have plenty of time to give your input as we move along the way. And I think it will be a positive thing for the community. And I just thank everybody for coming out and sharing your thoughts with us and spending an evening at the planning board. So I vote yes.
Mr. Lennox?
Yes.
Mr. Makis?
Yes, and I hope we were able to answer a lot of questions and get some confusion out of the way. But I think it's beneficial for the area. As residents of this town, we look at it, we don't take it lightly. But we want the town to just prosper. And That's what our points are. And we understand, like the Mayor Cannon said, you coming out provides input after the study takes place. Thank you.
Now, is that a yes or a no?
So yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Just to clarify, so we are voting on the study, not on any plan. And the good thing is that since we're only voting on the study, when the plan does get drafted, if it gets drafted, should it pass tonight, and it goes out to council, and council passes the study to allow VINA to create the plan, that still then comes in front of the residents. The residents can speak on that, and then we have another opportunity to either vote yes or no on that. So this is not the determination of what will get done. It's a determination of whether we can go forward and plan something that would meet the criteria that everyone that came here is looking for, whether that's the traffic being changed or something along those lines, or what's better for that community. This study allows Vina and her team to go out and create the plan that then will be further presented and brought forward. So with that, I'll vote yes.
Mr. Lauer?
I concur with my fellow members. I vote yes.
Mr. Renner?
Yes.
Mr. Petty?
Yes.
And Chair Marucci?
I'm going to keep this very short and sweet. Yes.
Oh, boy.
Okay, so now we
are at the time that we can
We're
no
at the
longer
time.
go forward.
Oh, yeah, are we going to continue this?
No, if we can announce it now. Okay. Yeah, that's okay.
We're not going to hear this.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, you can make an announcement, sure.
All right, Mr. Chairman, based on the time, we're going to adjourn the public hearing and presentation on the second redevelopment study, the Old Bridge property summer landfill area need redevelopment study. That's going to be carried to the next public meeting, which is scheduled for April 27th. And no further notice is going to be provided. So if you were here to discuss that redevelopment study, or wanted to make a public comment on that redevelopment study, you are hereby given notice that is being carried to the April 27, 2023 public meeting, and you'll be able to be heard at that time.
Okay, now, all my fellow board members, don't throw anything at me, but I have to open it up one more final time for final general comments from the public. Okay, closed. Public portion is closed. And may I get a motion for adjournment?
I'll second.
By Ms. Cannon and Mr. Petty.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I like the way you did that.
Coming out.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for